Welcome back to another episode of Cardboard Hands. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back again, and this week we have our co-host, Mr. Gindo. I can't ever point in the right direction here. My co-host, Retrospecs, my friend. How you doing today, Nick?
Good, man. It is spring, finally full swing in Washington. So it is sunny most days. I'm going outside. I'm touching grass, which is new for most people in the hobby. But yeah, I'm going outside, enjoying the sunshine, touching grass, doing yard work. My mower shit the bed, so gotta go get a new mower to keep the landscaping top notch. But other than that, man, just chilling. What's up with you?
Not much, man. Touching grass. I feel like that's about the opposite of what we're going to be talking about today with GME and Pokemon going to the moon. So that is what we are going to be getting into today. GameStop. And but other than that, what's been on my plate as usual. I've been preparing for a card show. I have one tomorrow. I'm leaving for the Front Row Card Show coming up this weekend in Southern California. So if you're going down to Southern California, if you're going to be there, if you live in the area, or if you want to travel, go to the Front Row Card Show and see me. I have a table right up front. I'm going to have some awesome stuff. I'm stocked up on inventory. I have everything but Charizard UPCs because I had two separate people try to scam me over the last week on purchases on those because the price started going up on them. And then after I purchased them, I guess they had like cold feet. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about like what a scam versus someone who's just not fulfilling orders is, because I had some pushback from a Facebook group when I tried to expose these people or at least warn people like buyer beware. They denied my posts because I guess you're not allowed to like call people out like that. And it's not a scam if they just don't send your item and you have to go through pay. I don't know. It's a weird thing. We'll get into that. So
It's
yeah,
not.
I'm a little flustered about that.
I would argue that, like, look, if you cancel the order after we've already agreed to like a price and things like that, it's not necessarily a scam. It's just, but it is worthy of a buyer beware. But if you make me go to PayPal to get my money back after
That's my point.
that's a scam. That's
my thing.
That's scammy.
Yeah, so I have. It's one thing to cancel on someone after you've already agreed upon a price and then refund them. Be like, yo, man, price went up, or I had a buyer from someone else for a higher price or something, and cancel and then refund and then go to them. That's messed up. And I would say that's maybe not a scam, but it's certainly worthy of like a buyer beware, I think, because that's kind of mess. You don't go back on your deals. That's like a handshake deal and you don't do that. That's just bad business. But like you said, when both these people forced me, they communicated that they would not refund me, that I had to go through PayPal and just basically force a case and open a case. I was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, this is extortion. You're scamming me right now. And they're like, yo, bro, this isn't a scam. You're going to get your money back. Just go through PayPal. So like,
bro, you go through PayPal, click refund. Like, what are you talking about?
That's what I said.
I don't know, man.
Some of the screenshots I took. So yeah, the Facebook group Pokemon World. I don't know if you're listening right now. Probably not. Shame on you for taking down or denying my post, because I gave receipts, screenshots, and all I did was post the name of the accounts, who are well-known accounts who had trade feedback, pages in the group. So shame on you, Pokemon World. If anyone's watching, any mods are watching, shame on you. That's all I gotta say. So
yeah,
buyer beware if you're buying on Facebook groups, because apparently some of them aren't willing to make things at least apparent. Because yeah, I'm gonna get my money back from PayPal. One of the cases has already been settled in my favor, but the other case, the person is literally ghosting and they're just not replying and making it go the maximum amount of time for each. Like, I have to wait until X date before I can escalate it, then wait until X, because they have to have a certain amount of time to respond or whatever the hell it is. So definitely scamming going on. I was basically a free loan service for some sneaker salesman is what it was.
You're just a hater on sneakers, dog. Like, I don't know what it is, but
I've just been to the profiles of too many of these people who have tried to scam me.
Pikachu is a sneaker guy. I'm a sneaker guy.
I'm not saying all sneaker guys are scammers. I'm just saying there's a lot of scammers who are sneaker guys. That's all I'm saying. Almost every Pokemon scammer that's tried to scam me has been a sneaker guy. That's all I gotta say.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Because I look at their profiles, like they're freaking idiots. They use their regular Facebook profiles. It's like they're idiots. They have their flat billed Supreme hats on, and they have at least 5 pictures of their Jordans or whatever the hell the new hype.
Yeah, Jordans is sus. Like Jordan, I can't. I'm not a Jordans guy.
No. The
Like you have to
Kanye,
be a
yes,
certain.
the Kanye West stuff is sus. The Yeezys or whatever.
Whoa, nah, dog. Yeezys are where it's at. Jordans is what you're talking about. Like Jordans, you have to wear baggy
That man is
jeans,
respectable.
flat bill
Michael
hat.
Jordan is a respectable human being. The other man who makes the other brand, I can't say much about. I won't say
Bro,
much.
every single this was always the wildest thing to me about when people were like, "Oh, I'm not listening to Kanye anymore." It's like, dog, do you listen to like I can name 15 other rappers? These dudes are murderers and drug dealers. And Kanye's out here
Michael
saying,
Jordan play basketball. It's just
okay, I love Michael Jordan too. No
I don't
disrespect
have
to the man's
I
name.
like some of Kanye's stuff. It's not about his music or anything. I'm just saying like they look like weird shoes. They're all rounded and like foam like.
Some of them do, but like the Yeezy 350s, and like I'm gonna be honest, I bought the foam runners to flip, and I got them in, and I was like, yo, these are actually
Tell me in
kind
the
of fire.
comments if we're
These
right
are
or wrong, if
fire.
Retro's right or wrong. If I'm right or wrong for hating on this whole sneaker thing, I don't understand it. I'm sorry.
I'm a fashionista, dog. What can I say? Catch me in Orlando Collecticon, 10 days looking right. That's all I'm gonna say. Catch me
listen.
in Orlando, baby.
I can appreciate a good outfit or a good fit or whatever, but it doesn't come down to $500 sneakers. I don't look that far down typically.
That's the thing though, is you can get a lot of these sneakers now for like $80 to like I think I paid $80 for the foam runners.
Well, that's
if you're
fair.
gonna go to
That's
Nike,
like what a regular pair of shoes costs.
that's what I'm saying. Like you can get initially when they came out, Yeezys were like very exclusive, very low printed, but they've done so many like reprints. Like they have for the 350s, they have like V2 now, which like looks slightly different, but it's basically the same thing, but they're cheap. They're like 150, 170.
So those are what you wear, and then the other ones are like what you could like put on your sneaker wall kind of thing.
Everything I buy, I wear.
You
like if I'm not actually gonna wear
hold on. I have to know that we have to know. Do you have a sneaker wall?
I don't have a sneaker wall in my closet. I have literally just a stack of boxes of because I keep the shoe boxes. So like when I wear them, I
you
take
kind
them
of have
out.
to, right?
Yeah, like I'll wear them, I'll take them out, I'll wipe them off, make sure they're clean. I'll put a little bit of shoe powder in so it doesn't stink or anything like that. Wear them, take them off, I put them back in the boxes with like, they got the paper in there to make sure the shoes don't like rub together and stuff like that. But
I get that. That makes sense because that keeps it nice. You spent money. I totally get that. I guess the part of it that I never understood is like the ultra expensive collectible $500. They sell out and then resell. People are buying like nines when they're a size 10.5 or something just to have it. It's like I don't get
no. I don't buy them just to have them to look at. Like I buy them to actually wear. And I remember a long time ago, one of my friends, their parents worked for like Nordstrom corporate, and so I would get deals. Like we would get this like crazy family discount basically, and so we would go to like Nordstrom Rack. And I would buy designer shoes. Like I remember I got these Ferragamo shoes one time that were like $750 retail, and I think I got them for like $180 at Nordstrom Rack. After like, because Nordstrom Rack's like already cheaper, and then you get the discount on top of it. So like that kind of shit's affordable. But like I'm not paying $500 for shoes I'm never gonna wear. Like same thing with clothes. Like I got a bunch of Tommy and Polo Grails, and like I have all the Polo Grail jackets. Like that was my whole shtick. Probably like 6-7 years ago, pre-pandemic. Like I flew out to Round 2 in California when the dispensary closed because I was kind of like in a weird spot, and I was like, all right, I need some retail therapy. So I flew out to Round 2 in California, which is like a big they're like really famous for reselling like vintage clothes. And the guy that owns them, Sean Wotherspoon or Witherspoon or however you say his name, he's done collabs with Nike because Round 2 got famous. Anyways, Round 2 has this like thing next door called the Gallery that's like appointment only, and it's like all the grails. And so I pulled up, I talked to one of the dudes there. I was like, hey man, I'm from Washington. I'm looking to buy like some of this stuff. Like, can I get into the gallery? And he's like, yeah, man, come back in like 2 hours. So I walked around, got some sushi, hung out in like Hollywood and stuff like that. came back, went into the gallery and bought all these like polo grail jackets. But I wear them, not like, every day because they're expensive, but like I wear them. Like I don't have anything in my closet that doesn't fit me. And like some of the stuff that doesn't fit me, I actually have in a pile that I'm like gonna probably list on my girlfriend's eBay. I might list it on my eBay. I don't know, but I have I went ham. This is getting off on a tangent, but I remember like one summer I went ham and like bought like 20 pairs of swim trunks of like polo and Tommy, like vintage swim trunks because the patterns were cool and stuff like that. And I'm like, dog, half of these don't even fit me, and like I don't ever need 20 pairs of swim trunks. So I'm probably gonna turn around. I'm gonna keep like 3 and turn around and sell like the rest of them and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not like a flexer. Like my closet is not like a display thing. It's like stuff I actually want to wear. So
Utility things you wear and stuff, which
yeah.
makes sense. Now,
You
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
know it
know
because on
necessarily.
YouTube Live, I wear like a lot of the same stuff all the time. Like I just wear whatever's comfortable. I wear that same like champion hoodie like every single YouTube. It's comfortable. It's comfortable. Like buy
Well,
buy
you're at
me another
home
hoodie
too,
or something.
yeah.
But yeah, when I go out or like I'm trying to like go to a dinner, like go to Collecticon or something like that, I'll try to dress up a little bit, try to look fresh, but
Yeah, I don't do any of that. My whole wardrobe is Kirkland, and if it's not Kirkland, it's basically either like a con wear, so something like anime or Pokemon or bright and colorful, something I couldn't wear to a nice restaurant, or something for like Disney that's like Disney related, so it's like a bright Disney shirt or like a Disney theme, so you can't wear any of that. Like I have a bucket hat that looks like cheese. It looks like a wheel of cheese with like a bite taken out of it. I can't wear that anywhere but the Disney parks. You know what I mean?
yeah. Kirkland,
For
listen, bro, I'm not gonna
Ratatouille,
lie.
but
Sometimes Kirkland be having the deal. Like I remember a long time ago, they had like a bunch of Puma stuff at
they have
at
some nice
my
brands at Kirkland. Yep.
yeah, like they had a bunch of like Puma. It was like sweats, and it was over the winter, and it was at our local Costco, and they were like $6 a piece for like Puma sweats, and I'm like, hell yeah, like I'll buy 5 pairs of these or for $30 or something like that. You know what? It's like I'm not trying to wear that out to flex, but like around the house, just trying to be comfy or whatever. It's like you can't be $6 sweats, dog. Like come on.
Yeah, when I was younger, I used to buy like nicer clothes and clothes from like I would go shopping in San Francisco, and there were a bunch of like downtown shops that I liked, and I really liked like that kind of like British look, I guess you could say, which is a really weird look for me nowadays because I'm in my Kirkland era at this point. But I liked Ben Sherman as a brand. I liked Macy's because they had a lot of cool like international brands and things. I liked like vests and button down shirts and
Okay, so you were trying
like
to look like an international man of mystery.
it was a weird time for me when I was younger, for sure. But I used to like to dress up, and it was like nice clothes, and people would always compliment me on it. It was like something that did matter to me. But like I said, I guess these days, but even back then, like my shoes, I liked. I had different pairs of shoes, but it certainly wasn't like to the level of like the sneaker day, like the way the sneakers are these days. It's really, really taken off. Like, because even then, people who like dressing up, the sneakers weren't really it wasn't the hugest deal. At least I felt like maybe I was too young to see that, but yeah, these days I'm more dressing for comfort. Like I wear this shirt all the time. It's in these lives because once again, like you said, it's just comfortable. I have like my at home sort of wardrobe, and then I have my con wardrobe when I go out and I go to conventions. I have like my bright Crocs and my my t-shirts with my Pokemon themes. I have a Gengar shirt I like to wear. My Magikarp hat I'll have on. So like I'll usually have like my what's it called, lanyard with like the stuff on it, for whatever convention I'm at, the vendor lanyard. So I'm all decked out for cons usually, but that's about as far out as I go.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Comfortability, man, like that, and that's. I mean, we don't have to keep going on, but like that's part of the reason I like the Yeezys so much, and like Huaraches by Nike. Like Huaraches are so comfortable. I really value that. Like when I was younger, I would put on some stuff that like was not comfortable but looked cool, and I'm not there anymore. It's like it's gotta look nice but also be comfortable, because if I'm like uncomfortable sitting there for 3 hours wearing something, or It's just not worth it. It's not worth it anymore. I don't have anybody to flex for. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm already
Yeah. I
locked
haven't
in.
put a blazer on in like 10 years, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm
I
pretty
saw
okay
I
with
saw
that.
you for one of your friends' weddings. I remember you posted that post on Instagram, and
That's not a blazer. That's a suit jacket. That was a suit
okay.
jacket.
All
I mean,
right.
I used to literally wear like a blazer once in a while, like as an overcoat kind of thing, and then a jacket on top of that if I was cold. Like, I would really dress up going out back in the day. But it's just not that. I'm not about that life anymore.
You heard it here first. Cardboard hands. Josh used to be a finance bro. Josh used to be a Wall Street executive, bro.
No, I used to work in the Napa Valley, and I used to,
Yeah.
like, have to dress like that in the tasting room.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair
So
enough.
that,
All right. All right.
all right,
GameStop.
let's go on
GameStop.
to the
Talk to
main
me.
juice. This is going to be a topic that goes through several variations, or it goes through a little bit of a journey, and you're going to go on a journey with us as a listener. So 15 minutes in, it only took us 15 minutes to get through our intro. Usually that's the case, though. It takes us longer than that, actually. But with GameStop booming, GME, the stock price, it's really taken off. I don't even know what it's at today. Yesterday, it was like close to 100, and I'm pretty sure it's going up at this point. You'll have to correct me in the comments what it's at right now. Leave a comment down below when you're listening to this. It'll be like a timestamp. What's the stock at right now when you're listening to this, the GME stock? Because I think when we were recording it right before, it's like 70 or 80 bucks at least. So um, pretty interesting. So GameStop is booming again. Roaring Kitty is the meme account that is supposedly came back from the dead, and it helped GameStop rise from the ashes and become this phoenix that it is today. Is it that? Was it Roaring Kitty, or was it the announcement that Pokemon cards and graded Pokemon cards were going to start being bought and sold by GameStop? Because suspiciously enough, at the same time that GameStop started booming, just days before was when they announced their Pokemon buyback program for graded cards is going to be rolling out. So, with that announcement, the big hunk of news that we're going to be going through in this part of the story, we're going to be discussing GameStop, what that announcement means, sort of the what actually came out in that announcement. Maybe we'll go to the Poke Beach page and discuss some of the actual news that was actually released about it. It's rolled out for 200 stores in the U.S. We actually have a friend. I have a personal friend in the hobby, our own PK Pokemon Knowledge, who's went and actually tested this out, and I've talked to him. We were texting about it. He told me some of the inside scoop about how it went for him, so we'll discuss that. Shout out to PK. Go listen to his most recent live. He's I'll link his channel down below, but you've probably seen his channel before. He just did a live last night where he talked about this too. So great topic here. So we'll talk a little bit about that and then go into maybe the implications of what that means for GameStop. But Nick, what do you think about all this? Have you heard about this craziness?
Well, real quick, did you watch the GameStop movie? It was called Dumb Money. Did you ever see that?
I think I did. It was it was in 2020 or 2021, right? It was a documentary that came out after like the
No,
boom.
it was well, it's like a I don't know if it's a document. It's like a docudrama, I get, but it had what's his name from SNL, the trippy looking dude, Pete something, Pete. I keep thinking Pete Wentz from Fallout Boy, but what is his Pete Davidson? That's his name, Pete Davidson. Um, Pete Davidson and like the dude from Little Miss Sunshine. I can't remember his name, but
It was a
anyways,
movie. It wasn't a doc because I saw a documentary
no,
that
it
was
was a
made, not a movie. It was
no, it
not
was like
like
an actual. Oh, and like Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen was in it. Like he played one of the hedge fund managers, and
dude, I gotta see this movie. I didn't see it.
yeah,
No.
it's like it's worth watching. It's not something I would rewatch, but it's like all right, like especially if you lived through the panorama, which we both obviously did, like and kind of experienced all the craziness that went on with stocks and crypto and cards and all that stuff. It's worth taking a look at for sure. But anyways, I wasn't like really. I never watched like any of the Roaring Kitty videos. Like I was just in a lot of like trading discords and stuff, and they were all talking about like AMC and Nokia and GameStop back when like all that stuff was happening. And Yeah, like I never like I never listened to the Roaring Kitty guy. Like I didn't even really like see him until they did that congressional hearing where he testified like during the congressional hearing. But
Oh, really? That was your first experience with them? Interesting.
yeah, like I'd never seen any of the other stuff before. But I'm looking at the GameStop chart, and man, like it has been a nutso week for GameStop. And if you zoom out, like to year to date or like a 1 year chart, like you can see GameStop was just absolutely tanking, and then in the past week just went like absolutely vertical. It ate doo doo finally today. This morning, like on market open, it just dumped super hard. It dumped. It looks like the bottom got down to like 31.50.
Oh, it really
But
tanked.
yeah, but again, that's after a 300% run up. Like it's finally given some stuff back. It's down like 19% today. It was down like 30% though on market open, I want to say. Anyways, at 10:30 it bottomed to like 31.50, and now it's like working its way up to right now it's sitting at, it looks like 39, like around $39. So it gained back a little bit, and like that's to be expected for sure, because people are making crazy gains. A lot of that's probably like options contracts people are gambling on, and they're hitting some pretty big wins and then turning around and selling and taking profits and moving on. But when you texted me last night about like the 80, and again, like I watched the first part of PK's video and heard that he got lowballed. If he would have brought in like modern alt arts in PSA 10, I'm interested to see what those comps would have been like. But at least the numbers that he was quoting were not inspiring, I guess, or not reassuring as to the whole they're paying out 85% thing. Because I was like, dog, I'm about to fly out to New York, stay with Dan, drive to Brooklyn, sell my entire inventory and start over for 85%. But it's
Yeah,
just
let's pull
nuts
up
because
the article where the screenshots where it shows the people who are selling their. It's a Noivern V, and I used it in the thumbnail as well for this, so you'll see it in the thumbnail if you clicked on the video.
yeah.
But let's see, the article here. Wait a moment. Let me pull it up and get past all of its pop-ups here. There we go.
I'm trying to pull up like GameStop's financials too. Like I know they've been kind of eating doo doo for a while, but it's just interesting. Like my brain broke last night when we were texting, because I'm like, dude, we have completely round tripped to the panorama, right? And it's so funny because stimulus checks, 0% interest rates, all that sort of stuff made the economy go crazy, but the economy is still strong, and interest rates were raised at the highest rate of change in like, I don't know what it was, like 15 or 20 years or something crazy like that. And there's still all this money out there sloshing around. GameStop is up 300% in a week after announcing that they're going to start buying graded slabs, which just seems like a terrible business. I mean, I don't. It's just nuts, man. Where we're at, like this shit doesn't even feel like real life anymore. But yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, so it does feel a little bit like we snapped back to 2020 because GameStop's booming again, Pokemon's all booming again, and slabs apparently are just taking off. But what we were talking about here is this article. I brought it up and I shared the screen. So hopefully if you're watching along, you can see the screen here. But we'll read along some of the main parts. So if you're just listening, you'll get the gist of it from listening along. So we've now learned full details for GameStop's graded cards program, is what the article says. GameStop plans to launch the program at all locations in June. Today, it's soft launched at 200 stores in Texas, Connecticut, Kentucky, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, and New York. It appears that now this is a part that you should take with a big grain of salt, because we have corresponding evidence that sort of it goes against what this article is saying in this regard, but it appears that GameStop will offer fair market prices for PSA cards, is what the article says. When we first revealed this program last week, the most common critique was that GameStop would only buy cards for a portion of their value. However, that's not the case, at least not currently. For example, when visiting a store earlier today, a GameStop's offer for a PSA 10 Jolteon VMAX was $158 cash or $176 store credit. A PSA 10 Noivern V was $121.50 cash or $135 store credit. And so that's the screenshot, and then so here is the screenshot of the Noivern here, right here on the screen. And that's the beginning of the article here. That is not the case from what we have been given from a friend of ours experience, because like Nick said, when last night we first sort of read this article and heard about this rolling out, we saw these screenshots, and there was a couple of the screenshots I saw on Reddit and on Instagram or Twitter as well. And they showed similarly high prices. But I wonder why they're showing that, because when our friend PK Pokemon Knowledge went into his local GameStop and gave now albeit lower value slabs, they were offering I think the highest offer he got was for a PSA 10 Expedition Blastoise non-holo, and that one was $28. And then he got a bunch of $2.70 was the lowest offer he got on any of his slabs, kind of regardless of what it was. So it seems like they had a base, like a low base that they'd offer on almost anything. And then on the higher things, they had some sort of pricing tier that they used, which wasn't in line exactly with what these screenshots and what this article is saying. But what do you think about that?
I mean, when I listened to the PK live, like it was definitely more in line, because like even the 85%, I'm like, come on, dog. Like we all know GameStop is like famous for lowballing you, right? Like you bring your games in and they're like, oh yeah, you bought that for $60 2 weeks ago. Like I'll give you $6 for it, right? Like we all know that's been GameStop's model for like a long time. So the 85% seemed kind of nuts. Again, I'd be interested to see as more videos come out and more people bring more cards in with like proof of like what they actually got and stuff like that. That'll be interesting. But just the overall business model, I mean, look, dude, like it's already tough enough to be a like an LGS, right? And you can't have, like, I would argue that GameStop is much more oversaturated as far as like physical locations than like an LGS is. And so if GameStop thinks it's just going to pivot its business model into becoming an LGS, even like as a corporate entity, I just like, I don't think it's going to work. And I really think that you need subject matter experts. Like you can't just have employees, like right here, you scroll to the thing that shows the authenticity checklist or whatever that, but like employees don't like there's so much market nuance to understand about cards that like just giving a minimum wage paid employee and being like, yeah, like buy people's slabs, it's just like these people are so unprepared and just do not have the knowledge base to make this like a business model that makes sense. And I mean, like free cash flow wise, like it looks like at the end of 2023, GameStop, and these numbers are in thousands, so remember to like multiply these by like 1,000. But GameStop's free cash flow at the end of 2023, which I imagine maybe they like sold, like I haven't really kept track of like a lot of GameStop, but like at the end of 2022, their free cash flow, again, multiply this by 1,000, was negative 496,300. So they were like $4 billion like negative, right, in free cash flow. And then at the end of 2023, they were actually positive. So again, multiply this by 1,000, but 52,300 was their free cash flow. So I imagine what happened was stock went nuts. Maybe they sold a lot of stock to sort of like help pay off the debt. I think they did like some weird issuance thing too, where like you could, or maybe that was AMC. I can't keep track of, like, I know one of them, it might have been AMC, but they did some like other thing called like Ape, or like they did some like Ape shares. I don't even remember. Like those companies did crazy stuff to like securitize their debt or anyways. But now as of the end of 2020, or the end of January 2024, Free cash flow, again, they're back negative $238,600 times 1,000, right? So what is that? Like 2 billion, 2.3 billion negative free cash flow. So
I'm gonna
even
start
though,
buying some junk slabs.
yeah, so exactly. So like even though GameStop is this like huge, it's like, dude, their business model unfortunately has been dying for so long because you can, I mean, look, like I grew up like we all grew up going to GameStop. Like I'm not gonna front and act like we didn't. Like GameStop was like, and even if you weren't gonna buy, so like sometimes just going into GameStop and looking at the games and like looking at the different toys and action figures, like that was just fun as a kid. But like the business model, like I remember for a long time, PlayStation Network, for whatever reason, like they weren't charging tax. So you could, or tax was included or whatever. So you could buy games on PlayStation for $60, no tax, download them and not go anywhere and like have the game instantly. So I was like, well, why would I ever go to GameStop and pay, 65 plus tax or whatever for a brand new game? I could just buy it off PlayStation Network right when it comes out. So ever since that, like they've, Xbox and PlayStation
Well,
have done.
that's sort of what the funniest thing is. I'm sorry about GameStop right now going into the card business is that their physical media is a video game, which is supposed to be some futuristic video. Like it's like more futuristic than cardboard and like a board game sort of thing. And they think their move for the future is to go into cardboard and more so not the gaming element of it. They don't want the gaming element. They want the graded part of it, which is just strictly the non-gaming part of it that's not gamified, which is once again against, it seems like, what their whole structure of business, what they know about at least. So it feels very counterintuitive for them to start doing. So yeah, I'm sorry, but that's what made me think about that.
No, you're good. I went on their website too last night, and on the upper left corner, they have a tab now that says graded collectibles. And so like they're going like full bore with it. I don't understand what the move is here. Like I don't know if they're trying to get, like, if they know they're headed for bankruptcy and they're trying to like, I don't know like what the move is here, or like what made them think that this was a good idea. My tinfoil hat, like potentially bullish theory, is that maybe, like, this is super long shot, but maybe this is some sort of partnership with PSA. And now that PSA owns the vault, if GameStop buys slabs at a percentage of market, maybe PSA will allow GameStop to sell through the vault for like very what's the word, like very attractive fee structures. Like maybe they'll be like, all right, well, we'll charge you 2%. So if GameStop's buying at like 75, 80%, maybe they can turn around, sell them through the PSA vault, pay 2%. I don't know. I
No, I know
honestly,
what they're doing. I just
what,
figured it out.
what?
They're going to start selling mystery slabs.
GameStop mystery bags. Yeah,
That's
that would be.
legitimately what they're doing. They're literally going to buy all these things up and they're going to sell all the liquid stuff they can. And they're going to make a GameStop mystery bag and sell it in their stores and ship it out and just have that because mystery products do so well. They see what MJ Holdings does. They see what the ones on the shelves at Target, and they see online. They had some person in their CEO who like is on Whatnot or something selling mystery bags. He's like, yo, you know what sells the best? Mystery bags. And so they're buying up slabs for like $2.70. They're scanning it in, saying, hey, little Timmy, I'll give you $2.70 for each one of those. And little Timmy's like, that's a Charizard. And he's like, get out of here, little Timmy. Go sell it to someone else then. See, and then little Timmy gives them their slabs because they don't care. And then they're going to turn around and make mystery bags out of them. The funny thing
That's
is,
interesting. That's
PK
interesting.
was really upset and up in arms about Tag doing this the other day in the live that we were in. And, I understand why, because there was like some shadiness he thinks going on or whatever. I sort of disagree with his take on that particular element. I don't think it's shady. That whole situation was shady on purpose. The misgrading or anything, and the mystery bags, I don't think is something that's like planned that I can tell. But GameStop doing it seems a lot more likely because they could make an official branded product, sell it in all of their game stores and online, and they can market it however they want, and they can buy at all their game stores and sort of have an unlimited product of junk slabs and just buy at dirt cheap prices, basically. So, I mean, that feels like a much more, and then what you said seems like it could be a realistic opportunity for them too if they got a lower rates on the vault, or auctioning, just get rid of their trash if they didn't. But to me, it feels more likely that since they're only taking 8s and up and of $500 or less, they're vetting out for mystery bags. They're literally just getting their mystery bags all set up for 6 months from now to roll out.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I think, well, I can't remember if it was the Poke Beach article or if I read it somewhere else, but I saw that like they were saying that the slabs aren't going to be. Well, it was weird because like I think actually it was the Poke Beach article. They said two conflicting things. They said one, GameStop is looking to buy display cases right now so that they can sell cards, but then I think in the same article it said that they're not going to actually sell them in store. They get sent to GameStop headquarters to sell online exclusively. So little bit of like conflicting information there. So I don't know if Poke Beach has the full story mapped out entirely yet, but
I think more will come out as the weeks go on and this rolls out, because like as of just yesterday it rolled out in stores, and I only know one person who actually did it, and I've talked to PK about it, and it's very little. Like even as I was asking him questions about it, like there are things he didn't think about or look at while he was there that I was asking him. So for example, I was curious about the situation, like how they were pricing the cards out. So I want to know, because we heard they were giving $2.70 on some slabs, but it didn't say it wasn't like it wasn't what slab got. There was just this flat fee across the board. So I was curious how that number was coming about, and it seemed like he said that when they were pricing them, they scanned them with their POS, like they had a gun. They scanned them to price them out. So they like scan the cert maybe. So that would imply that they were using PSA's price charting, or they had their own program that was like pricing out the
yeah, I
cards.
think it is through like PSA's APR, which I haven't checked it in a while. Maybe that's something maybe I should check that out really quick. Like while we're, I'll just go to like a random pop report and see if like maybe Evolving Skies or something super liquid and see if they update it. But PSA's APR for a while was pretty doo-doo because almost nobody enters the certification number. If it's a vault card, if it's a card that's selling through the vault, that stuff's going to pop up because they force you to enter the cert. But it's like, I don't enter the cert number when I list cards. It's like you can see the cert number in the picture. Like if you want, you can click the
Well,
back
I don't
picture.
list it because sometimes I have multi-listings and I don't put the cert number in because it might not be the same after the first listing sells,
Oh, okay. Even if I do quantity listings, I just take one picture and I just like I've never had an issue. Like I'll put 10 up with like the first cert number and just kind of like let them sell through, and I've never had an issue with that. But if you're like really concerned, you could just go flip to the back picture, hit it with your camera, hit the QR code, and it'll take you right to PSA's website. But yeah, the PSA APR auction prices realized. Again, I'm gonna check right now and see like how it is now.
Yeah, because
But
our friend PK only brought in some more bulky cards. He admittedly said he didn't bring in like expensive ones, and so I would be curious what they went for the 250 and higher cards that have more of those price points that are on a higher realized with the cert numbers that are in the APR. So it would be very interesting to see if that was different, because I did ask him if he brought any alternate arts, and he didn't bring specifically any PSA 10 alternate arts in. So that was maybe something that, since they're so liquid and so expensive, maybe they have something in their program that says like buy these certain cards at higher percentages. So maybe there's a way for their algorithm to figure out like the really liquid cards that they think that they're bullish on, that they like alt arts, high rarity type things, they maybe pay higher on, just like a streamer would, where anything over a certain percent they're gonna pay out better, and then anything under a certain percent they're gonna give you like 70%, 60% on, because that's just how it goes with those low value items. Maybe they have the same thing going on, but honestly it doesn't seem that way. It feels a lot more like they're just buying for super super cheap, as is their MO, and they're going to dump it back on the market. I'm going to say in mystery bags in about 6 months from now. That's what my thought process is behind this. Because how hard would it be for them to put it in like some black Mylar bag, put a slab in each one, put GameStop Mist Premium Pokey Power mystery box or whatever it is, and throw it in a hanger and hang it on their right at the checkout stand at all their stores. And so at certain stores they're not even buying at every store. People literally just buy those for $20, $30, or however much, $25.99. 24, whatever they sell them for, $14.99. Hell, they're paying $2.70 for most of these slabs. So they can make a lot of profit on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm looking. So I just checked. If they're pulling the APR, maybe like I just clicked Leafy on V from Evolving Skies in PSA 10, and I'm looking at the APR, and like obviously the prices are all over the place. It's like 135, 137, 180, 140. So maybe like when they're scanning it, there's like some sort of algorithm that's pooling all the APR data and then like coming out with an average and then comping based on that. I'm not entirely sure, but I'd be interested. Again, like he took stuff that's like, no offense, PK, but it's like kind of trash. You know what I mean? Like if you took like an alt art in or something like a PSA 10 Umbreon VMAX.
Celebrations Charizard, like it's PSA 10 Celebrations
yeah.
Charizard.
And then they're still offering you $20. All right, they're cooked. But like, come on, dog. Like a PSA 9 Classic Collection Charmander. Like, let's be real here. Like that is a $2 card. I mean, not really. I mean, you can probably bulk it out to a streamer, but their Dactyl one was solid. I didn't know he took in a Blastoise.
I know that he did that because he was just looking to see what the bulkier cards. I know he had some nicer stuff that he liked to sell on his own eBay. So I think he was specifically testing out for the bulk.
I don't get why though. I mean, to me, I know that this is not realistic, but like if they're really paying 85%, like for instant liquidity, and the vault's going away, like why?
I would really like to see someone go out there and put out some more videos and more like a vlog going into a GameStop, because I'm in California, you're in the West Coast, right? You're Washington. I don't think that there's any rolled out here on the West Coast yet, so it's very unrealistic for us. I'm actually going to be flying to Florida in the next month, but before then, someone will get a chance to test it out. So I would love to see someone test it with some more liquid cards. They're more valuable, to see what the realistic price would be for some of those, because I don't know, because I agree with you, but I disagree at the same point. While I do think that he brought in some bulky cards, I still think that they're gonna lowball the hell out of people with the higher end cards.
Yeah, you're gonna get GameStop. So like,
I still think that's gonna be the case. I think that screenshot was like I don't know. Like, was that planted by GameStop or something? Like, put on the tinfoil hats?
Yeah, I don't. Again, like the Pokebeach,
PR, so that everyone comes in and dumps their cards. Like,
no offense to Pokebeach. Pokebeach usually has like the best news and information and all that. But like that article was like a little sussy. There was a lot of like contradicting sort of stuff in it.
It felt like they were pumping for GameStop almost. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know if I'll go that, but it just like, I think they were excited about it and they were just kind of working with the information.
That's maybe what it was. Maybe not pumping. Maybe they're just excited and it was showing.
I mean, dude, I was excited too. I was like hopping on Alaska Airlines. I'm like, shit, dude, I need to book a ticket to Texas like before I go to Collecticon. Like, I'm canceling Collecticon. Because I mean, like, seriously, dog, like,
yeah, 85%. That's wild. If they were,
yeah, I mean, I've talked about it multiple times, like watching, being in these different like reseller Patreons and like watching all these people doing like big businesses outside of cards, and seeing that people are sacrificing like percentage points for like insane volume. And to me, like, again, this is utopia. If I could drive 25 minutes, 30 minutes to GameStop and dump everything instantly for 85, like I don't even know if I would have an eBay. Like, why? Yeah, no, why would I be like, why would I have an eBay? Because I could just
I would never go to another show again. I would literally never go to another. I would just go to buy. I'd buy 80% and dump it 85% at GameStop the next day.
You could turn your money over so quickly. It's just like, why would you ever have? Again, like, I love eBay. I like building out a store. Like, I check my feedback every day. I like seeing like the store grow over time. I like seeing the items sold number go up. Like, and it's the closest thing probably I'll ever have to a storefront, because I don't have any like delusions of grandeur of trying to open a brick and mortar, at least right now. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of wild to me, but like, if GameStop really was buying 85%, no questions asked, hell yeah, I'm taking everything to GameStop and just like not dealing with it. Like taking it straight to GameStop, selling all of it, resetting to zero every single time, and having that liquidity. Like I will sacrifice 2 or 3 percentage points to have like instant turnover and liquidity. So
Is it even a sacrifice, even though? Because like then you're not shipping, and it's like so it's
well,
just
if it's
instant.
over like $100, because I mean you do the math, like top rated seller, I think I pay like 12 point, I think it's like 12.35, and then you get the extra 10% off of that. So then it's like 1.235 taken off of that. So then it's, 11 and some change. But I promote everything at 2%. So then when you bump that up, it ends up being like 13, a little bit, like 13 and some change. But if it's under $100 and you're shipping for $5, let's say, that's 5%. So then you're up to like 18%. So if they're taking uh, or if they're paying 85% on the lower end stuff, when you start getting over, I mean, I'd have to do the exact math to where like the break even point is, as far as like, you know, factor in the 13% plus the $5 shipping, what makes that or like what number does
We're
it get?
talking like less than 3%, though. We're talking 2 to 3% is
Yeah,
what.
that's what I'm saying. So like
Yeah.
I would just be, it's like who cares, like 2-3% to get my money
For
now
instant
and
liquidity,
instantly,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
turn
there's
it
not even
over.
a question.
Yeah, but I mean, like, of course, it's a utopia. Like, it can't be true. But I mean, like, even though this is not or seemingly not true that they're actually paying 80, at least on certain cards, they're definitely not paying 85%. Even though that seems to be not true as of right now, it is still bonkers that one, this is even happening,
Yeah,
and two, the stock is up 300% in a week. Like this does
yeah.
not feel like real life. Like I was sitting in bed last night, like texting you, watching Apple TV, and I was just thinking to myself, like, dude, this is so insane. This is so like, why would the Fed ever cut? GameStop is up 300%. AMC, I think, was ripping. I haven't even checked the other meme stocks, like what were the other ones, like Nokia and Bed Bath and Beyond, and like all the, like I haven't even looked at those stocks. But even the general market is still ripping, like continues to rip. I mean, SPY is up, I think almost, well, what's SPY up? I mean, SPY's got to be close to like 20% year to
Just in
date, I would
general,
think.
it's the market is ripping, and one of the things we're going to talk about later on in this is the $2,000 Moonbryon in English that's sort of on its way to becoming a reality as well, and that sort of goes to that point. But yeah, do you think that the Pokemon caused the GameStop to rip, like the announcement of these slabs, or do you think it's just a pure
I I
correlation?
think a lot of it might have been like roaring. I mean, I haven't like tracked the Roaring Kitty tweets. I don't know if he's like talking about the fact that they recently did this PSA thing at all, and I don't know if it's like a direct correlation or just good timing, I guess, that like the PSA announcement, he comes out back, because he's been silent, I want to say, for like 2 years now, or like a
Yeah,
year and a half or so. Like after the congressional hearing, he kind of like went into, which I get, dude. Like this dude was like a regular guy working like a regular, not like a super high end finance job. I think he was like an analyst for a bank or something like that, but wasn't. I don't even think he was making like six figures or anything crazy. Made stupid bread, millions and millions and millions of dollars on his GameStop position. Probably did fairly well on YouTube because he was making videos during the panorama, right? But then that becomes like now he's embroiled in this whole like, oh, I have to testify in front of Congress. Like for a regular dude, that's like that's kind of scary, maybe, right? And like I think he has a wife and a kid and stuff like that too. So it's like I could totally understand wanting to pull back from being in the limelight type deal. So yeah, man. I mean, honestly, I don't know, but like when I take a step back and think about it, I'm just like, dude, this is just wild. Like this has been the past. I would argue the past 5 years of my life, looking at like what's going on in society and markets and just like social issue. Not to get too political, but just like the last 5 years of my life, I feel have been the most volatile or crazy years of my entire lifetime. And I'm only 29, so I guess that's not really saying much. I mean, you might be like 45 years old watching this and be like, "Oh, you young whippersnappers don't know what." But like for me, the past 5 years, everything we've gone through has been insane. So and it almost doesn't even feel real sometimes. It's just like, how can this be happening, right? And again, it's like, how can Powell even be considering cutting when meme stocks are back ripping again and interest rates are at like what, 5.5%? It's like, dog, why would you cut? And inflation is starting to like tick back up a little bit too. The economy is fine. I think like delinquencies are chilling right now. I read like the jobs report and stuff every time that comes out. Like that's solid. And like a lot of these layoffs, people are like, oh, these companies are laying off. These people were paid. These people are making like six figures doing nothing, sitting on their phones watching TikTok videos at Silicon Valley tech companies. Those are the people that are getting laid off. It's not like a hardworking trucker dude is getting laid off that can barely afford to feed his family or is working a blue collar job. Those dudes are printing right now. Construction workers, blue collar workers, manufacturing, warehouse, like those people, that has like a labor shortage right now. But all these like white collar jobs, that's who's getting laid off. But guess what? Those people have assets. Those people have cash buffers. So like people see in the news like, oh, Tesla just laid off all these workers. Those dudes are paid. I had a homie that I met on Call of Duty, and he like did some college program to where he worked, like Tesla like paid for his college, and he did like specific engineering classes, and then ended up like living, I think, on like a Tesla campus or something. And he worked for like on the production line for Tesla. Anyways, part of his compensation was Tesla shares. And this dude was like 21 years old and had like $60,000 in Tesla shares. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? So it's, oh man, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't.
I knew a dude who at Tesla before the big run up in 2020, 2021 and the panorama and everything. He worked at Tesla down here in Silicon Valley in California. And the company was thinking about moving to Texas or something. And so right before they made that a move to Texas, they wanted him to, and his like whole division, they were going to pay him to go move to Texas and pay him whatever the extra, moving fee was, and let him go hook him up down there. But he was a big California guy. He did not want to live in Texas for no reason whatsoever. And so he just took his stock and he took it and he basically got laid off, or not laid off, but he decided to not take the position and stopped working there. And I remember he sold the stock when it was like a little over 100 or less than 200. And then he was rich. He was basically rich off of just that when the stock was low, quote unquote low. But then I remember talking to him after the fact. He was bitter that he sold when it was low, and he was hella rich because it got to like over 300, whatever the Tesla stock went up to, and he had to sit there and watch it, and he sold out of all his stock when he got out of the company, and he was super rich. So he's super, like you said, like he got laid off, or not laid off, but he lost his job, and he wasn't working at the time. He didn't find a new job, but he had hella money from the initial job, so he had assets to lean on. So that's not always the case for everyone who gets laid off, and some of these people don't have assets. So if that happens to someone then I feel bad for this guy. I don't feel bad for this guy.
Yeah, no, Tesla is that one company that like I've seen people, because a lot of people live in echo chambers financially, especially because like when you start talking about people's money and like your money and the trades you're making and stuff like that, like people like to live in financial echo chambers, similar to the way they like to live in like echo chambers for like political issues, social issues, all that kind of stuff.
Or for cards, or for Pokemon cards. You like to hear your shield going up. You don't want to hear anything bad about it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like people live in echo chambers, but I like to listen to, and sometimes it pisses my friends off or my family members, but I'll listen to people that they consider like abhorrent or abysmal, that have like way opposite opinions. And I don't have an issue with that. Like I'll listen to, dudes that I know I'm probably going to disagree with on like social issues or political or what, and financial stuff especially. I listen to dudes that are like ultra bearish all the time. Like Rosenberg, and there's this other dude, Tommy Thornton or whatever, and he runs like Telemetry, which is a hedge fund. Very bearish. Like a lot of his positions are short, and he is like a huge Tesla hater. And I'm a huge like Tesla lover, but like I'll listen to what he has to say, and it's interesting to me. But I started hearing like probably, I don't know, man, like the middle of last month ish, everything I was watching, regardless of people's opinions on things, like everybody across the board was like, oh, Tesla's like underperforming. Tesla sucks. Like, look at what the market's been doing, and Tesla's just been underperforming for like the past couple of years or whatever. And so I started adding to my Tesla position because every single time people get super, super negative on, it's like, it's the same thing with Apple. Like around the same time that people were like ultra negative because the market's been ripping. SPY year to date, I think, is up like 13%, but over the past year, I think it's up close to like 30% or something like that. So people compare everything to like the S&P benchmark, and people look at like, oh, Tesla's like underperformed, Apple's underperformed, like these companies are doo-doo, whatever. And like when I start across all the podcasts I listen to, all the financial content, all the hedge funds, all the wealth managers, if they're all ultra negative about, I'm like, nah, I'll take the contrarian play here on something that I actually believe in. So I bought a little Tesla. I bought a little Apple. Not a market genius, but the shit popped. I don't know how long it's going to last. Like, I'm sure they've given some of the gains back, but like Tesla is the one company, especially that I've seen so many people get decimated betting against Tesla. It's just like, don't do that to yourself. Like, don't. It's good that we don't have like a shorting instrument in Pokemon, because these people that want to be ultra bearish about would get destroyed. The amount of like wealth destruction that would happen on people that would want to be like, oh, I'm going to short this card or I'm going to short this, you would get trucked. And it's like, why would you? I don't really have the personality for that, honestly. Like, I don't do shorting. I don't sell short. I don't do a lot of puts or anything like that. Like, that's not my kind of mindset. Like, I generally try to be positive on things. Like, I like to see the positivity in things. I understand that like markets are cyclical, commodities are cyclical, cards are cyclical, things like that. But like, and I understand that there's going to be slow periods, but I overall am never betting for things to fail. And we've talked about this on the podcast before too, like with the Lorcana stuff. We were both like, yo, Lorcana's sick. And everybody was just like rooting for it to fail. And it's like, why? Like, if it doesn't affect you, even if you don't like the game, like, why are you rooting for it to fail? Like, why can't you just let it do what it does and then not interact with it? Same thing with Pokemon. It's like, if you're not into it, you don't like Scarlet and Violet, you don't like this, like, cool. But why do you need to root for it to fail? Like, that is always weird to me. Like, I don't have that kind of personality personally. But anyways, that was like a long rant. We could,
given the ability to short cards, I think would be very interesting, because then you'd see a lot more of that bearishness coming out, because when people actually have positions on cards being shorted, they would definitely then go speak about it. Be like, yo, this card is the worst card I've ever seen. It should be going down in price, not up. But I think now people have less of a reason, or less of like a horse in the race, because they don't have actual money being, owning the card is having a horse in the race enough. But then imagine being able to short all of the cards' prices. That would just be such a funny, a really funny interaction in Pokemon. But yeah, I think that's a good amount to talk about for GameStop there. I do want to see how this develops. I personally think it's a bit of a signal that GameStop is losing a little bit of its losing its footing a little bit, and they're trying to move into territories that feel a little bit more unstable for them or uncertain. And I think that they're going to get cooked. I also think that they're going to then, at the same point, though, cook people based on some of the prices that PK was getting PK'd at. So I don't know if it was just because of the types of cards that he sent. So love you, buddy. Love you. Hope you succeed. But maybe I'll wait until I hear some more like PSA 10 alt arts get brought in. I want to see what the first like $500 card comps at, when it hits that price limit sort of thing, what they do about that, and what percentage they're giving on those types of things. And man, I hope they roll it out in California, because I do think that if they could pay a good percentage, it would be a good outlet for some people. And I think there's a revenue for them to be made in their mystery bag product if they did go choose to go that route. And they could pay decent percentages on certain cards and put them in their bags and sell them for a good rate and make a good product, and not have to use any third-party grading companies, and put a variation of cards in them, make different tiers. I think they could do a good job with it too, just as well as they could do a bad job with it. So it very much so depends on how things roll out. And we're going to have to roll back around to this as time goes on and see how long this lasts.
Yeah, yeah. That actually, I know we're skipping Crossfire this week, but I
Oh,
have a good Crossfire. No. Let's skip
oh.
it. We got a lot to talk about. But like next week, I have a good Crossfire that's kind of related to. Well, I'll save it. I'll save it. But I'm actually writing it down so I don't forget it this time.
Well, that and next week we're going to be live on Nick's channel, and if you can think about, it's going to be a call-in show. So think about maybe some questions you may have or some topics you may want to call in about. Because if you've been on the channel, if you're a friend of ours, if we know you, like if you're vetted in some way, even if you've never been on the channel, but if we know you because you've been in the comments or you're not just some random person who's gonna come and do something raunchy on screen that we're gonna have to edit out of the video. We will let you call in, and we will give time permitting. We're gonna try to give people a certain amount of time to kind of talk and make their case. And we're gonna try to have a call-in show next week for the first time. So it could be kind of a fun cardboard hands thing. So get ready for that. Follow the Retrospect channel and look out for that live, and maybe think about potentially getting involved with that if you've ever thought about wanting to.
Yeah, yeah. I think it'll be a good time. Vetted homies only.
Or
But
just
yeah, man.
vetted
Like
folks. It doesn't have to be a homie. It just has to be
yeah,
vetted people, you know.
yeah. Vetted. You gotta. Well, yeah. I think you gotta turn your camera on, right? Like so
Yes,
that.
you have to have your camera on. That
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
requirement.
But yeah, don't be doing anything sussy. Don't be posting any inappropriate links. Don't be trying to meme. Like, come on, dog. Like, we're not doing that. Like, don't mess up a good thing here. But yeah, if you're vetted, like if you ever want to come on, like, and even if you're not somebody that has a channel or has any interest in content creation, but you just want to ask a question, or you just want to chop it up real quick and talk to us or whatever, like, like we're chill, regular. Same thing at cons, dog. If you see us at cons, come up and talk to us. Like, don't be afraid. Like, we're down to be buds and talk for sure. So hopefully it's a good time and people have fun. But yeah, I got a good crossfire for next week. I just wrote it down so I wouldn't
You
I
worried
wouldn't
me
forget.
for a second because since we weren't doing Crossfire this week, I didn't prepare one. So I was like, "Oh shoot, you have one," but I
No,
know.
you're
Okay,
good.
fair
You're
enough.
good.
All right, we'll save it for next week then.
Yeah, you got
Crossfire
a
will
week.
return next week, folks. You heard it here. Okay, but the next topic here for the week is going to be something that we sort of touched a little bit on last week, but we didn't touch on this specific thing. But the English Moonbryon is closing in on $2,000 very quickly here, and I think it's eclipsing the Japanese one as we speak. And that being said, with $2,000 Moonbryon on the horizon here, on the moon, as it were here, what do you think about all this? Do you think that maybe some of that is organic? Do you think that's where it should be, and it's finally realizing the price that it should have been all along? Or do you think maybe there's a chance that it's getting a little shilly out here with some of these alternate arts? Because I do have a friend who's been very vocal in the community about local, not locally, recently he's been seeing a lot of these alt arts being bought out, being pushed in auctions and sold for higher prices and not paid for. And in some cases sold for higher prices and then paid for when there's buy it nows on the market for less. And then you'll see buy it nows disappear from the market at that point and then be relisted at these new high auction prices. So my question is like, at what point are things being shilled and real? And at what point are they inorganic? And when do you start worrying about it? And then something that's even on your radar. So shout out to Johto Jake. He's a good friend of ours of the channel. He's the one who kind of he was bringing it up to the attention of the community that he was seeing a lot of weird like activity and auctions on certain things, specifically alt arts that correspond with some buyouts, and just seemed a little bit interesting. And so, I just want to hear your take and thoughts. And this is just, just our opinions on the matter. But what do you think? You think it's organic?
Real quick, does Jodo Jake have a channel yet, or
No, he
just
doesn't. He has an
okay?
Instagram. He's all over Instagram, and he's on a lot of people's channels. He's a great guy, good friend of the channel. But I don't believe he has his own YouTube yet.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean to that point, like I actually because I had a few of the Umbreon Vs from Brilliant Stars that weren't gradable that I was like turning around and flipping raw on TCG players. So I was kind of like checking the TCG player prices there like daily, I would say. And I noticed because I was like low list or matching low list or undercutting by 99 cents or whatever. And there was I think I had mine listed for like $40 or something, 45. And there was a sale that happened. Like mine hadn't sold, but there was a sale for like $58. And I was like, well, why? Because there's so many options for 40, 45, 47. Like, why? And so when I see that kind of stuff on TCG Player, I'm like, okay, that's a shill. Like, that's people trying to like drive the price up and, make it seem like things are selling for, like an account will list it for way over. The dude will buy it off his own account or his friend's account or however that stuff works, and then make it seem like it's a bigger sale than it actually is.
And it could be a real legitimate sale where a TCG Player just collects the 10% fee on whatever the 12%, 13% fee on it, and someone pays for it, even if it's that friend of the person who just pays them to pay for it. So we're not talking about like not real sales. Like it's on the platform, it goes in as sales data, and it becomes basically gospel after it goes onto that website as sales data. And so same is true for eBay sales in some cases. You can still have things get shilled to, say, that $5,000 Giratina alternate art that got shilled up and not paid for. Assuming someone went and just paid for that, like, does that then make it gospel as a real sale when there are X amount of them on the market for so much less? Like, then are people going to take down all theirs and then list it for $5,000 because one was paid for? Like that.
Yeah, and I don't like I'm not even trying to be like I'm pulling up 130 point really quick here while we talk, but I I'm not even trying to like sound like a white knight or like the moral authority or anything like that. But look, like when stuff's already pumping, like when stuff is already like organically moving up, I would argue that doing like the fake, not the fake, but doing the thing we were just talking about, right? Where you go, you buy your homie's listing for like 20%. It's like that is not like that to me hurts the market more than it helps, because other people are going to see that and be like, oh, well, maybe this wasn't organic demand all along. And then they start dumping. Versus if things just sort of organically move up because people legitimately want the cards and are FOMOing because they're like, oh man, if I don't buy it now, it's going to gap up another $10 and, I'm not going to be able to get it for the price that I want. That to me is like healthier for the market. You getting extra greedy when things are already moving up. It's like, why would you do that? Like things are already up double in some cases, and in some cases even more than double. It's like, don't get greedy and do that kind of stuff, because that's in your mind, you're like, oh, I'm going to push the market up. And I would argue it's actually going to do the opposite. It's going to create more fear and uncertainty. And a lot of the people that were like holding the cards might then be like, oh, well, this whole shit is fake. I'm dumping my cards. So
Well, I agree it's immoral, but do you think it's happening? Is my question.
do I like what do you mean? Do I think
Like, do you think that that's actually happening with a
yeah,
lot of
100%.
these
I mean,
like alt arts?
I've seen it happen. Like I haven't looked at like the higher end stuff, but like I definitely know it's happening on Umbreon V, or it was happening on Umbreon V. So I imagine it's happening on plenty of other cards as well. And again, like I just think it's stupid. Like it's counterintuitive. Like you think you're going to push the market up, and I would argue that you're actually making the market less confident by doing that. It's like don't get greedy here. Like let's just let
I
things ride out
disagree
the
with
way.
it making the market less confident. I think it would for people who are like really digging into it, like that, doing the detective work and like trying to find but like the general overall public, I don't think they see those that are like being pushed for 20-30% higher than market. They don't see that as shield, and they just see that as, oh, that card's on the move. I haven't looked at that in a few weeks now, but I guess it's just on the move because they see Sword and Shield boxes are sold out. They see everything's getting pumped, and so they think, oh, it's only natural for the hits in the box to also go up exponential bit more, and it was just underpriced before that. So like, where is the line at, and how are you supposed to know as a consumer and feel comfortable with it? Can you ever feel comfortable with it, or is it just sort of the level of like, these are non necessary, they are non-fungible non-goods that you don't have real market values for, and we treat them as buying and selling commodities, and we treat them as assets and call them investments at times, even if it's tongue-in-cheek, but they really are not. Like, there isn't anything. Like, a price is a price. Like, whether it's shilled, whether it was inorganic, you cannot be confident buying one of these pieces of encapsulated cardboard for a price point just because there are comps up and down the list. You could find me 69 comps of a card and ask me if I felt comfortable buying it at $420.69 when there are 69 other comps at that price. Would that make me feel comfortable buying a card? And I would still dead face tell you it depends on the card. It depends on everything. And there's no way you can really say that card's worth that value. So like, I'm curious, like how that line is drawn. Like we sit here and say it's immoral to shield these cards up, but like, just don't buy it. Like no one's making these people buy these cards. Like if you see a card going over a price, you're like, damn, that's getting expensive. Don't buy the damn card, right?
I don't necessarily know that it's like I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, playing God and be like the moral authority is kind of weird to me. So like, I don't know if I would necessarily say it's immoral. I just think it's like, it's pointless and counterintuitive because I think the person, their goal in mind is because they personally have whatever card it is. Like they have a Giratina and they're like, well, if I bid this up to 5,000 and don't pay for it, then I can get 2,000 for mine instead of 800 or whatever it's selling for. I actually checked 130 points. So English is selling for 1,500 for Umbreon VMAX. Past two sales were today for 1,500. Japanese though, I can't remember if Japanese was over 2K for a while, but Japanese is the last sale is looks like 1,900. 2019 one went on auction on the 11th, and then one sold for 1,900 on the 13th.
So we're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer.
Yeah, we're definitely getting close. But like with cards like, I don't know, stuff that sells frequently to where there's a lot of comps, like the trading range tends to be a little bit tighter. Your vintage, your niche, like your low pop kind of stuff, I mean, that might not sell for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. The trading range on that is going to be a lot like wider and more volatile for sure.
But
But
even when it's not, though, say a $400 vintage card goes to a $700 card. One might say that because it's just the market ripping, they don't like vintage very much, it's a low pop card, it wasn't appreciated, but then it was. Maybe some videos got made. People give all these reasons for why a card is a certain price and what makes sense. But does it ever make sense? Ever, really?
I mean, I think it's like it's all, and that's why it all goes back to, you know, it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like part of the reason there's arbitrage in these markets is because there is no one market price. This is not an optimized market like the bond market or the stock market or anything like that. Like market price on any given day, if you're paying cash, that's a piece of nuance, right? If you're buying in person, if you're buying a lot of stuff versus just buying the one card from the, like there's so much nuance that goes into it. And I know people are tired of hearing that word, and I am too, but like that's just kind of how it goes, right? And like, but to your point about like the morality and stuff, again, I wouldn't necessarily say it's moral, but I would say as sellers, it makes our lives a lot easier to have a generally accepted idea of what X card should sell for.
So
If
it makes
things
us
were,
more comfortable to deal in it.
yeah, well, and
I
as
don't think it makes it
buyers too,
easier, though. It makes it more confusing, honestly.
and as buyers too, like you want to feel confident that you're paying like what the market deems as a fair price, right? So like, and you know, to the point of like grading too, it's like, okay, well, we don't have to argue about condition anymore. Like the third party, whatever. And so in this case, the third party is the aggregate of the market, right? It's the aggregate of TCG Player and eBay and in-person show, and like people all kind of like agree generally within a range that these are what these items should be priced for. And that I think is helpful for buyers and sellers. And so again, I just think that when people start doing the shilling stuff, it's just like it's counterintuitive because it defeats the whole purpose of like a generally accepted market price. Like when things are shilled absolutely crazy, I don't think that it has the same stickiness as just organic price growth. Like when you see one sale that's randomly 30%. Now, again, to your point on vintage shit, it's like the thing with vintage, there's certain cards, if it's like pop 50 and it's like an English, you know, mid-era PSA, like what are the chances somebody's going to pull up with like an English mid-era PSA 10 quality card and get that graded to add to the pop in the next 3 months? Like probably fairly low, especially if the pop's already fairly low on it. So like if one sells for 400 and then there's none listed on eBay, but the next copy up is $700. That's a different situation because it's like, okay, well, this card doesn't transact all the time, and everybody else that owns this card is holding it because they want it for their collection. I have mine for sale. If you want it, this is the price. This is what I'm willing to sell it for. Like, if you don't want to pay that price, go find it. You're not gonna find it elsewhere, right? And so that's kind of the difference with those kind of cards, I think. But like with Umbreon VMAX, you can't price Umbreon VMAX 30% above market because there's so many options. People are just gonna be like, dude, screw you. I'll go to my local card shop or card show or buy another copy on eBay. They have infinite options. But like with a low pop WotC or mid-era yada yada, like you might not have other options. And so like that's another piece of nuance on like market prices, like what people are willing to sell things for. But when things transact all the time, trainer galleries cards, character rares, VMAX, Altar, blah, 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 that I feel like should have like a more tight trading range. But
You
yeah.
still need a buyer for low pop cards too, though, because just having a low pop card doesn't mean you instantly can charge whatever you want. You can have it sit there at $500 for, however long and it not sell, and then lower the price and lower the price and lower the price until it eventually sells at $40. Was it a $500 card, even though there's only 2 of them out there and there are none mess on them? No, it wasn't. Did you have it at $500? Was it low pop? Sure. But it was more like a $50 card because that's what it sold for. But could it have been a $500 card? Sure. Does that matter? I mean, it matters to some people for some reason. It really does. If you were to say, oh, that's a $500 card that went for $400, someone would say, cool, you got a good deal. But if it was like a $50 card that sold for $500 and someone saw that, it was like, they got scammed. There'd be huge, people getting all upset and whatnot. So I think none of these price points make sense, to be honest. And at any point, it could all go to zero. And that's why I consistently and constantly and I always say how risky this is compared to any other investment, and why it sort of irks me and it really bothers me when I hear all this like Pokemon is a no-brainer investment. It's a sure thing. And it's like people feel very, 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 very comfortable just throwing things in their closet because it's Pokemon. When, dude, I've seen card games go to zero. These are pieces of cardboard that very quickly, at any point in time, something could change. It's just unlikely because it's Pokemon, right? And that's why I feel comfortable with it. But like, it irks me when I hear people thinking that any price point is a real price point. That $200,000 for Charizard is like, cool, that sounds right for a first edition PSA 10 Charizard, whatever, no big deal. Yeah, that's the going rate. It's what it's worth. It's like, what do you mean that's what it's worth? That was worth $100 for so many years.
I see what you're saying for sure, and I definitely agree with you on a lot of that. I would just say, like, so yesterday I met a dude at the card show and I bought a bunch of stuff from him, and I asked him like what got him back into the hobby, because he was in during the panorama, all that stuff, and he was doing like pack ripping videos and stuff. But I asked him like, because he quit, I guess, for like 2 years, and so I was like, all right, like what brought you back into the hobby, because now he's back in it. And he was like, Crown Zenith. Like, Crown Zenith came out, crazy cool set. I loved ripping it. It was cheap, it was affordable, I could get it at Walmart and Target. It wasn't like being scalped crazy, and I really liked the set and I enjoyed it a lot, so I ripped a bunch of it. And again, that's just like one small anecdotal data point, but that kind of stuff just reminds me that people, like, because everybody's like, oh, I mean, 151 created this like mass interest boom too. Like, all these people that might have been outside the hobby were like, oh, 151, and then came back in or whatever. But like, Crown Zenith is bringing people back in, right? And like, if we're in the low point right now, if Scarlet and Violet is a low point for Pokemon, coming off of like how good Sword and Shield was received, and people aren't really, I still like Scarlet and Violet, but people aren't rocking with it quite as much, at least right now. Let 6 months go by, a year go by, and we'll see how people look on it. But if the next arc of Pokemon, I don't know if it's like the Z to A thing that they're doing with the game, like I don't know what the next era of Pokemon is going to be called, but if that is popping again, I don't know. And like, I think sentiment data is interesting. Like, I look at so many people starting up businesses. Like, dude, I don't think I've ever watched a Poke Chloe video, but Kai made this like funny meme out of like a Chloe video, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know she like opened a store, and so I went and watched her her store opening or whatever. Like I didn't even know like she had a store, and I was like, damn. I mean, again, like she's a bigger YouTuber or whatever. It's like it would make sense, and there's less competition in the UK and things like that. But bottom line, like I see all these people starting businesses. I see all these people vending. I see at these local shows, 2 years ago, it was like 90% sports. And now like it's still primarily sports, but now maybe it's only like 70 to 80% sports. And more people are doing TCGs and stuff like that. And so and PSA, right? Like now you can get the sports magazine or you can get the TCG magazine. So like when I see all these little data points, it makes me confident in the future of the hobby. But I totally understand your point as far as like this stuff is not, it has no utility, right? Like it has no intrinsic value. Like it's just, they're worthless items. We just assign value to them. Like I totally get that and understand that point. I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, but I'm like, I've never been a collector. Like when I was a kid, but like I almost don't even remember what my life was like pre-cards, because now I do something related to cards almost every single day, unless I'm on vacation. I'm constantly thinking about the business. I'm constantly, trying to stay up to date on the news and stuff like that. I don't even remember what my life was like before this all happened, right? Like this whole zeitgeist is super, super wild, but it doesn't seem like it's stopping. It doesn't, right? And like it's kind of wild, but like yeah, I mean to your point, like it's you should never say like anything's a no-brainer, and that's Pokemon or other invest. Like I mean, you should never say like any specific stock is a no-brainer. You could analyze like the fundamentals and the balance sheet and the income statement and all that stuff could look good, but there's always going to be like unforeseen circumstances that pop up that like you couldn't have predicted, and it's always good to err on the side of caution. But yeah, long-winded rant to just say that like I agree with what you're saying as far as like technically nothing should have any value, but the market is so massive now and infrastructure continues to be built out, and I think that all that creates like a stronger market and creates more stickiness to the market, like
At the same time that someone invested in Pokemon, who invested in Pokemon Sealed and stuff during the pandemic, put all that money into Pokemon and is still rewarded with it because it's gone up or held value, the same people could have very easily and very much so, very likely, I think we know some people did, put a lot of money into Funko Pops at that point.
Well, and real quick to your point about that, what's funny is always people, yeah, like Sword and Shield, like, oh, you could have bought Chilling Reign and stuff. Okay, first of all, very few people were buying Chilling Reign at 70. Like I remember Jake and Dan were buying a little bit, but no one was confident in Chilling Reign. Absolutely no one. You know what people were confident in? Hidden Fates, Vivid Voltage, Shining Fates. All those sets, I never hear any investing channels talk about those sets. Shiny Charizard VMAX, Shining Fates. That ETB was selling for $90 in stores. It was sold out on store shelves. You can
Champions
still
Path was the hottest shit, bro.
You can still go buy Shining Fates on Pokemon Center to this day. Vivid Voltage is still available on Pokemon Center to this day, and I never hear people talking about that shit. It is so easy to be like, yeah, you could have bought this when it was $80. You know what? You could have bought Shining Fates when it was $90, and people were foaming at the mouth trying to get that set because everybody wanted to open it. It had an Eevee on the box. No brainer play, right? It's an ETB. It's cool. It's blacked out. It's got an Eevee on it. The main hit is a shiny Charizard. No brainer. That set is still available, and you'd be down 50%. No one talks about that shit.
Generations packs were $10 for so long. They're under $10. Nobody wanted Generations packs. While everyone wanted Hidden Fates, and nobody wanted Shining Legends, and Generations was like less than $10 a pack. Nobody wanted that crap. You go look up right now, what is a Hidden Fates pack versus what is a Generations pack? Because I'll tell you, a Hidden Fates pack is less than what it was back then, and a Generations pack is more. And there's a lot of Generations just sat out for long. So, like, sentiment changes. And to think that if we didn't have, and this is what I think is going to happen, like it could go the opposite, but to think that if we go through the rest of this era of Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield's going to boom. Sure thing, keep doing its thing. Imagine we go through the rest of Scarlet and Violet. Okay, I'm going to play out a bearish take for you. Imagine we go through, we don't get gold stars, we don't get higher rarities, it just doesn't catch. We don't get $1,000 card. Hell, we don't even get a $200 card in Scarlet and Violet. It's just basically the rest of it is what we've been given so far is what we're given the rest of it. Then we move to the next generation, and it's a lackluster generation. Say they put out another game, and it's the same type of game they've been doing, and they have to rush it out like they did the last game. And it's bugs, and this people just aren't into it. Kids have other stuff to play. They have literally Fortnite. They have other things. Okay, that's 2 generations, 24 sets plus special sets in between, with maybe a couple good ones here and there that catch us investors. But investors can only lean on the Sword and Shield era for so long, right? How many eras go by before? Because I would argue that we had Diamond and Pearl era that was junk. Nobody wanted it. Didn't catch anyone. Then you had the Black and White era, or the Platinum era after Diamond and Pearl. It's kind of its own era, sort of. You had this Heart Gold, Soul Silver era before that, I think, that was junk. Nobody wanted that. It was a very low time for Pokemon. You still might argue people don't want that stuff. You know, people don't really collect those sets very much. They're very low print. People don't really have binders of them. And then you could go one. So we've had 2 or 3 generations where, and then you had XY that came through, and Pokemon Go was the only reason XY popped off in any capacity. Because if it didn't happen, there was nothing really in XY that was big. So we could go several generations of downtime where the hobby doesn't like die completely, but it just becomes a dark period. Like, and it's like people think this isn't possible because they've only seen Boom. They have only seen Boom, and people are mad in the comments about this right now. Are going to quote, "Well, only booster boxes have gone up." You know, I have these YouTubers who tell me they look at charts and literally every box is up. So
but not every box is up. That's the thing, though. Is like, and I'm not even trying to like be ultra bearish and like talk about like, but okay, to give a finance analog here, part of the reason, so like stuff like GameStop or even right now, I think China, like I haven't checked lately, but I think like the China tech stock ETF is starting to rip. Part of the reason a lot of these things can see crazy exponential gains is because when things start to rip out of nowhere, a lot of these positions, people are caught off sides because they don't have like the selling pressure is already exhausted, right? So like GameStop, for instance, chances are there's not a lot of institutional investors that have a ton of GameStop that they're sitting on. So when GameStop gaps up 50%, they're not there with a ton of GameStop, a huge position to sell to bring that back down, which is why things can cascade up. There was the whole short squeeze thing, right? It's the same sort of idea. It's, to me, it's the same exact thing in any market. It's the same thing as like celebrations. Like I just pulled up the chart for Ultra Premium Collection in October of last year. It was up to $400 on TCG Player, and now it's down to $370. Again, like not a huge.
You can get them for $300 easily. Honestly, I see them in auctions.
Here's the reason why, in my mind at least. Everybody had celebrations because they liked it. It was an ultra popular set. So like anytime celebrations gaps up a little bit, there's a ton of people with stuff that are there to sell it. Fusion Strike, like we've been talking about Fusion Strike on this podcast for a long time, saying it was a cool set. But guess what? People didn't generally really like that set. They were maybe off put by the people that stole the hits, so they didn't think that there was going to be hits in it, or for whatever reason, people were not really rocking with Fusion Strike. So part of the reason it went from like $100 to $250 or whatever it's at now, there was no selling pressure there. Celebrations is a set that everybody loved, and it's down. It's down over the it's not like, oh my God, you've lost all your money or whatever, but it's down because there's tons of people that went into it. So there was tons of selling pressure. Now you can say like Evolving Skies.
The Evolution set is the same thing. It's a little down right now because of all the selling pressure. It popped up, and then it's going a little bit up now again.
So when people don't have these positions to provide selling pressure, it's a lot easier for these things to like get away, which is part of the reason too why I feel like Battle Styles is going to take the longest to move and has taken the longest to move because a ton of people have that. Same thing with Hidden Fates. People were loading up on Hidden Fates tins and ETBs and Shining Fates. Same thing. Like people were loading up on that stuff. People were loading up on celebrations. Like people have a lot of that because they knew it was a good set. They liked it. They put a ton of it away. So if it moves up at all, people are there to sell and bring the price right back down. Fusion Strike, no one had outside of like maybe Rudy and P Football Pete. No one had 1,000 boxes of Fusion Strike because no one cared. No one liked it. Same thing with Chilling Reign. Like no one was really into it. People were like, oh, I like the birds and like the Slow King's cool and stuff like that. But no one was talking about those sets. The sets that people were talking about during the boom that were ultra hyped on are all stagnant or down. So like,
except for Evolving Skies, which that's the
Yeah.
outlier to this, which we all knew was a big deal, but we didn't know it was as big of a deal as it was. I think we knew what we
For
didn't
sure.
know.
For
You know
sure.
what I
Like
mean?
Evolving Skies is definitely the outlier. But yeah, man, like it's so funny to me because it's just like, yeah, dog, like the stuff moves up for whatever, but like you have to like provide the nuance. Like you have to say, yeah, but like this over here didn't do. And
Yes.
another analog to find. It's why people buy the index instead of stock picking. Because if you would have picked the hottest set at the time, which was arguably Hidden Fates and arguably Shining Fates, you would have lost. If you bought an index of all the Sword and Shield products, you'd be doing fairly well for yourself. Like you'd be doing pretty well. Like if you allocated $10,000 and created like a little basket and you had a little bit of every booster box, you'd be doing well. But if you pick the hot set, like the hot stock, you'd be getting wrecked. You'd be down 50%. And no one wants to talk about that. It's really easy to be like, oh, Fusion Strike is up to this price or Chilling Reigns up to this price. I think the cards in those sets are cool. We've been talking about how those cards were cool for a while now, since back when Gengar was like 150, 200 bucks.
Celebi in that set's one of my favorite cards in the entire Sword and Shield block. So
yeah, we talked about that on this podcast. We're looking at it on TCG Player a long time ago, and we're like, oh man, this seems way too cheap. But again, no one really agreed with us at that time, which is why there's no selling pressure there, which is why as soon as it starts to gap up, it's out of here, right? So
it's human nature to want to get in on something when it's already moving and it's too late, and to not want to be in on it when it's stagnant. I think it's just kind of human nature to have that hive mentality of surrounding it for whatever reason, for better or for worse. But that does seem to be the case with things. You want it when it's too late. You want it when it's gone. You don't want it while you have it. You don't appreciate it when it's there in hand.
That's why Rudy wins, man. That's why Rudy wins.
That man, I gotta say, like, I like his content, but I haven't been watching a lot of it lately because it just feels like he's just, I don't know, he's saying the same thing over and over. So like, it's very much so. When I first started getting into the hobby, I feel like a lot of the Rudy takes and a lot of the takes on sealed product were very like, it was mind-blowing in some regard. It was like something that like was a new concept to me, and I really liked to hear it. And it was something that didn't occur to me when I was younger as a player or as someone who just wanted the cards. Like the sealed collecting concept was something that like it didn't occur to me back then. Like the closest thing I had to it was like I would keep a box of Magic cards because I wanted to draft them, because I later on down the road would want to open them and play with them, and the only way you can play with them is having sealed packs, 3 sealed packs. So like you would have to keep it sealed, so it made sense to. But like for me, the sealed concept thing, when I first got back in the hobby, Rudy's channel was all about it. It really was intriguing, but like I feel like the longer I go in the hobby, the less interesting that content is to me. Just people being like, sealed goes up, roar. I'm just like, yeah, I know that. I don't really care. It's not interesting to me. And I don't need to hear like someone stroking and massaging my ego about it, I guess, over and over, weekly or daily. So like, I guess the Rudy videos haven't caught me as much because all he does is talk about his seal position basically. And like, he's like, hey guys, I guess sealed stuff goes up, right?
I mean,
the market changes, right?
It definitely does. And like, I've like sealed product, like, yeah, like it, but again, like you can't just like only focus on things that and completely, forget again, like all the things like the Shining Fates and the Vivid Voltage. It's just like, yeah, dude, like these boxes
there's a buying point for those products though. So I will say that I would argue that Rudy bought Chilling Reign and has a position in Chilling Reign because of the sentiment it was feeling. Everyone wanted Vivid Voltage at the time, like you said. And
Yeah.
everyone, not at that time.
Yeah, he
They wanted
bought it.
other
He bought it
things.
for sure when no one wanted it.
Yeah,
Stores
so
were
that
dumping it.
sentiment
Yeah.
was that it's the lowest. People thought he was an idiot. He literally got people saying he was a freaking idiot for buying the Battle Styles, Chilling Reign, the ETB position that he had in like that era of Sword and Shield that was like not Evolving Skies, but those like alternate art, hard pull rate, but low value boxes at the time. People thought he was an idiot, and they literally were calling like you could do so much better with your money. So you'll always have the course, but I my point is though that I still love Rudy. I can't do the
Yeah,
content like
I like his stuff a lot, and I think if I like, I don't know, like if I was ultra busy, I mean I am ultra busy, but you know Pokemon takes up a good
you're
chunk of that.
active. You're active flipping. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think if I like if my life was different, but I still wanted to be exposed to Pokemon, I probably would. I probably would be like just buying stuff and sticking it in the closet and
Yeah.
have a good time doing that. But
Selectively. Yeah.
yeah, but like I don't know, man. Like again, and people will say like, oh well, yeah. I mean, like of course these other sets didn't do well because only the alt art sets do well, and it's like, yeah, it's easy to say that in hindsight, but then maybe you weren't there when everybody was foaming at the mouth over amazing rares and shiny Charizard VMAX and all this other stuff. It's easy to be like, oh yeah, of course those sets didn't do well. They didn't have alt arts. We didn't even know alt arts. We're gonna be in the second half.
Well,
Just like we don't
they were in Sun and Moon. No.
for
We had
sure, but we
alternate
didn't know
arts.
that they were gonna be in Sword and Shield.
That's
We had
the
no
funniest
idea.
thing about alt arts is that people pretend like the Sword and Shield era like made like they're the what dude. People didn't care about alt arts. Things change. People liked rainbow rares. Rainbow rares, guys.
I like rainbow. Like I'm not mad at some rainbow rares. Like I saw, yeah, man. It's just funny. Again, like I'm not gonna art like things you pick like decent sets. Like
The
generally,
Latios was $30 for the longest time, and the Rainbow Pikachu from Team Up, the Pikachu Zekrom Rainbow from Team Up was like over $100. You did not want to pull the Latios full art from that set. That was not the hit of the set. Not until it got pumped by Twice Baked Jake.
well, and what's funny too is like I mean Latios and Latias like aren't. I think they're cool because they're like legendaries from Gen 3, but like Rayquaza sells for way more. The only reason the gold stars of Latios and Latias sell for so much is because they come out of a very expensive set and they're stupid low pop. But Latios and Latias are by no means anybody's like favorite Pokemon for the most part. Like they're not in the top 10 or even top 20 of most popular Pokemon. So
And they're siblings, by the way, guys. They are
yeah,
siblings.
yeah,
Just in
I
case
can't.
you don't get it twisted with that alternate art, by the way.
I'm not gonna go down that that neckbeard rabbit hole, but yeah, it's I don't know, man. Like it's just goofy, and so I think if you want to do this sealed investing thing, probably the best way to go about it is to have a little bit of everything, because if you just try to go in really heavy on one thing and it doesn't work out, then you're wrecked. But if you're spread out across a lot of different products, then you have exposure to different things, and some of your losers might get evened out because then you have some winners and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I think it's so funny because people are like, oh, it's so obvious, and it's like, dude, it's not obvious because I was there. I was born in the darkness. Like I was there. Like I remember when all these other sets were super hyped. I remember when Shiny Charizard VMAX was like God's gift to Earth, and you can still go buy Shining Fates ETBs on Pokemon Center. And I've never heard a single channel mention that. Not a single channel. But they'll let you know that you could buy, you know, Chilling Reign for $70 and you were a dummy for not, you know, putting a HELOC out on your house and buying Chilling Reign. So it's,
When
I
the
don't know,
best
man.
set at the time was Shining, the Shining
Shining
Charizard.
Fate, no one wanted open battle styles. People were not, they were like Chilling Reign. They're like, whatever. Some
It's
people like the
hard.
smoking.
The sentiment about Chilling Reign when it came out was very well liked the alternate arts were. The VMAX Calyrex was close to $100, and the Calyrexes were really popular because they were competitive. But people didn't like how hard the pull rates were in those sets. and people wanted shiny Pokemon because Hidden Fates was still like hype dog set 69. So that was like the investing set was like Hidden Fates. Like it was still close enough that you could buy it. People were like rumoring reprints on Hidden Fates, and like Champion's Path had just come out, but it was kind of like Charizard or bust. But Shining Fates was such a popular set, and people loved opening it on Whatnot because it's like every other pack had a hit, and they're shinies, and like the baby shinies were pretty valuable in a lot of cases. Like, so it was a totally different situation than what we have now. Like,
Yeah,
sentiment changes.
it does. And if like and if you disagree with that, I would like implore you to go out and start watching some of these live streams. And I've done this. Like I've gone through channel. Like right now, I'm actually going through like Squeaks' old videos and watching like all of his old stuff because I think that it's helpful. Like not only do people drop helpful little tidbits in some of their older content that now they might not either like maybe they're not making content anymore or they're just not going to say things that are as helpful to you anymore. Like I love Dan to death, but like none of Dan's videos provide like outside of maybe like the tax stuff or what, like nothing that he makes is like, but if you go to Dan's old videos, you can find a lot of sauce, right? So it's the same thing. But anyways, when I did that live with
Love you,
Pokenav, I
Dan.
went back and watched the old stuff with Pokenav, and there was like a stream with him, Jake, Mason, and Z, and they're all talking about celebrations. And again, to my point, like go back and watch that and look at how like bullish and as stoked everybody around that time was on celebrations, and look at how celebrations has performed over the past year in comparison to the rest of the Sword and Shield products, right? So it's like it's so easy. Like what is Dan like Monday morning quarterbacking or what? Like it's so easy to do that shit, but it's just like it's just not it's not realistic. It just isn't. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Again, if you want to be safe and you want to just do the sealed investing, I think your best bet is staying diversified because you don't know how things are going to shift. You don't know what cards are going to be
No, no,
popular.
no, no. Nick, if you want to be safe, don't tell people to invest in Pokemon. Just invest
Well,
in your
yeah.
damn your
Not investment
401k or invest in your freaking, S&P 500, whatever your safe investment is, do a real investment if you want to be safe. There's
Yeah,
no way that this is
yeah.
safe, brother. This is a
No,
collectible hobby. It's fun as hell. There's a ton of money to be made, but god damn it, you can lose a lot of money too, and people don't say that.
yeah, you can lose money, you can make mistakes, and even people that are like ultra knowledgeable and are running 7-figure businesses make mistakes all the time, and whether they admit it or not, I mean, luckily like we're blessed with people that are pretty transparent and pretty honest about like their ups as well as their downs. I know Dan's made some videos before about different losses that he's taken. I think Rusty's probably done the same thing. So yeah, I mean it happens to the best of us for sure. So like it's you're not like a market savant or whatever. Like eventually people make mistakes, and also like you could be right, but the timing could be wrong, right? Like you could be right on the set, but you could buy in too early. Like there's so much that goes into it. So yeah, man. Anyways, all right, let's move on. We're like an hour and 45 in. Let's keep it rocking.
Yeah, and so that's a nice little way to finish up the topic here. I do think it's interesting that we're seeing all these ripping, all this Sword and Shield alt arts going up. I think that some of it could be inorganic and some of it could be, but really, what does it matter? My point in all the whole this thing is, what does it matter? It is all cardboard and it's all very, very expensive, it seems like, but no one's forcing anyone to buy anything. So if you are making any decisions in this space, just make sure you're careful, try to make the best decision you can, but just know that there's no guarantee. And if you buy something and it goes down in value, so be it. That's the risk you take. Don't get all up in arms and cry a river about it. And at the same time, if you buy something that goes up in value, you don't have to take a victory lap and make people feel dumb for not doing that and brag about it. You can
Well,
be
and it's
happy.
so funny too. Like it's so like imagine like people already hate flippers. Imagine if every time you made money on a flip,
Oh my god.
you made a YouTube video about
Oh
it.
my
People
god,
would be
dude.
so but when things finally move in sealed investing, it's a cascade across YouTube. Oh my god, the box is open mouth thumbnail, the arrows pointing up. It's like every year or 2 years a little pump happens for certain sealed products, and then sealed investors get to take their victory lap. But imagine if flippers did that. Imagine if it was like, I 5x'd on this, or I doubled my money in 10 minutes at a card show. Like you don't do that. Like it's
I bought
so
this Glaceon for $5. It's a $10 comp card. I screwed that person.
yeah, exactly. Like it's so goofy, man. It's just like it's like I get that the numbers sell for YouTube and all that stuff, but it's just so funny to me that people are just like, yeah, it would just be obnoxious. It would just be obnoxious. But again, like it is nice to be right sometimes too. Like I'm not gonna lie
That's what I
about
mean.
that.
People can brag, but just don't be too showboaty about it. You know, there's a difference. There's a line, and everyone knows that your own social line to draw, and it's good to be aware of that. You know, so
Yeah,
I'm
I mean
just saying as an overall.
also understand too that like while there are a lot of people that are doing well financially in this hobby, like you got to understand too that like there's a lot of people that might come to your channel that not necessarily are broke, but maybe their discretionary income is like $50, and maybe like if you're making a video and you're like, oh, like I told you guys to buy it when it was 100 and now it's 200. It's like maybe that person didn't even have $100. Maybe they like your content a lot, but like maybe they feel bad because they're like, I really like you. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I just can't afford to make those kinds of plays. You know what I mean? So like that's something to keep in consideration too. Is that while there are a lot of like ultra wealthy people in this hobby, and you know especially people running businesses have grown their wealth like fairly well because Pokemon's just been like a huge blessing. But there's a lot of people that just hop on your channel that like your content, that like you as a person, and maybe you're hurting their feelings, or maybe they feel like you're talking down to them because it's like, hey man, like I don't have that kind of money really to like invest in that. And so I don't know, maybe that's something to be conscious of too. So yeah.
Yeah, so the next topic, though, we're going to move on to is going to be something that I don't think people are expecting from this channel or a lot, but it's a discussion I wanted to have. And it's a funny title. It's not necessarily, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but I was watching a YouTube channel a while back. One we talk about on this channel a lot, Brandon Martin, his ex, rest in peace, his vlog videos, because he doesn't do them anymore. I think he said he's not going to, but one of his older vlog videos, in one transparent moment, he was talking about how TikTok was shutting down, and the majority of their business he was talking about, he did like 50 grand in 1 week on TikTok, and like a huge amount of their business was on TikTok. And he was explaining how like with TikTok shutting down and making this big announcement of potentially having, their validity being questioned by the government and potentially not even being allowed to operate anymore, it begs, he was having a moment of transparency and talking to the camera, talking about like how stressful that could be, like selling all on one platform. And so he's saying how he's going to diversify more into his Whatnot streams, which he sold on Whatnot, but not a lot. It was like a small 10% of his business. And he said he sold on other avenues, but like, it was really, really interesting hearing him talk about these different streaming avenues and the importance behind being diversified on them, because anything could happen on any one of these platforms. Nothing is too big to fail per se, or is it? But even eBay, it seems, would maybe potentially shut down or have issues in the future, or there could be theoretically something that changes in the past where it's not, the future isn't set in stone. So like it made me think about streaming platforms, the options that are there, the importance of being diversified, and what the best options are. And Brandon, and I have a lot of experience with Whatnot. It's no secret about my reputation and my experience with the brand of Whatnot and my personal thoughts on them. I've been very critical and very negative on them for the last year or two, but like Brandon was going through it and through the different streaming platforms. And what do you got? You got TikTok, you got Whatnot, you got Drip, you got eBay Live, you've got Network, which is a small one. People don't know. There's one called, there's another one, there's 2 or 3 others. I'm sorry if I don't, if you like that particular streaming platform, go ahead and put it down below. But I can't name them, but those are your options. But like, out of those options, who's the best? Like, who do you think is the best at doing it? Have you thought about it?
I haven't personally done any like live streaming, but if I was gonna get onto a platform, I would pick. I mean, I would try to do both if possible, but Whatnot and eBay Live for sure. Like I've heard so many good things about the user interface of Whatnot, and I think it's even better from what I've heard than eBay Live. So
It's a
I'd pick
lot
one of
better than
those.
eBay Live. eBay Live, I'll admit to you, is the most rudimentary of almost all the streaming platforms I've seen. And from everything I've seen, they're really not putting a lot of effort into making it better at this point.
Yeah, I
And it's
still think you
getting
need to
the
get back
people they're
on
letting on
Whatnot.
isn't great either. It doesn't seem like.
I still think you need to get back on Whatnot. I think you need to. I mean, I
Okay,
look at
well, let's not turn this into that because this will turn into
look
that
look. I look
naturally.
at I look
Let's
at it like
discuss the whole thing first
I look
because
at it
that's
like
where
this.
this is
I look at it
going.
like this. Like I'm very proud
Most
and
likely.
blessed and happy to be in America. We all know the government does sussy shit, right? The government, CIA, COINTELPRO, killing the Black Panther Party members and Martin Luther King and
We're
all.
getting
Like
spicy in this one. We might
yeah,
get
I know this is getting
canceled.
wifey, but if you're an hour and 50 minutes in, let's keep it like we all know our government. Like we lied about to start the Vietnam War, right? Like the boats getting blown up in the Gulf of Tonkin, which turned out to be all cap basically. And the New York Times had to re go back on everything that they had been reporting and be
We
like,
lied
yeah, this
about
actually
UFOs
was.
we gaslit the entire
Yeah, so like
country about
the
UFOs for
government
years.
caps all the time. They lie all the time. They do bad stuff military wise all the time, right? But I'm still happy and blessed. I'm not leaving. Like I'm happy to be here. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with Whatnot. It's like, yeah, dude, there's gonna be bad actors, but you can't let that take away from like your life, your business, your happy. That's just how I
Okay,
look at it.
well, let's talk about that a little bit though, because what you're saying is not wrong about, but it doesn't. It's not about me though. But I do want to talk about these other platforms and whatnot in general, and what makes you say that about them, and what makes them have that reputation. Because it's by no means through being pumped by all these YouTube influencers. It's by no means a new thing that people are getting paid to do. Like the whole whatnot, that is not a new concept now. For a while, you could say that they were spending a lot of money on advertising. They're pumping it, doing a
They
lot of
still
like
are. They still
they
are.
still do, but it's not new to anyone. So I feel like it's definitely different than what it was when it started because as of now on the platform, there's no games of chance that are allowed. They don't allow for what my biggest criticism on the platform was the excessive gambling, the scamminess, the games that were unregulated that could be easily taken advantage of. Basically, it felt like a place for a long time that felt like an unregulated casino. These days, it still has some types of like little mystery packy kind of like, there's a hype beast kind of vibe there, but it's in no way that same whatnot that it was before. Through a lot of, I think, change, a lot of like the community coming together, a lot of criticisms that were put out by our friend Rattle. He did a lot of videos about whatnot that I think really did help them get better in a lot of ways. And so what they've always been good at though is really the streaming itself, like the running of the platform itself, the getting it streamlined, getting the back end working, and all of that sort of thing was always whatnot's really, really good strong point. And to this day, it still is probably the platform with the most utility. It's the easiest to get on and go. It's it's one of the safer ones at this point because they still do have a trust and safety that operates. I know a lot of people will argue whether that trust and safety, and I in the past have argued whether it works well now, but I think a lot of people say it does at least work. So it does have a lot going for it still. And, a lot of my criticisms of the platform have sort of been dissolved away as other platforms allow for and do some of the things that whatnot doesn't allow. So whatnot has now become sort of a more on a pedestal of a platform. So I do think that things have sort of gotten better with whatnot. And I will say, and I've always said that I think their back end side of the platform has always worked the best. And I think that what my roundabout point is, and what I was going with, and what Brandon in his video, the Mystic 7 video, whatever that I was watching about this topic, his conclusion was that Whatnot is the best and most stable of the streaming platforms. I personally think there may be a future for eBay Live, but I'm not bullish on it at this point. I know that you guys, being eBay guys and being really heavy on eBay, are really, really bullish on it. I just am not there, though, because while I do appreciate eBay and I appreciate what it offers, it's a boomer platform. It's not offering what needs to happen for these streaming platforms to really take off. And it just doesn't seem like it either cares or it doesn't understand how it's going to move forward in that department. At least that's what my understanding has been, my limited understanding through my experience through my friends streaming on the platform. So
I think it's good to be diversified. Like I've thought before about like, like what if, I mean, these are big black swan events, but like what if eBay, shut down, or like my account got deleted or hacked or something like that, and I couldn't recover it? Like what would I do as a business? And I'm looking at like my performance tab here, and like my gross sales are up like 12%. My net sales are up 14%, which I would, attribute to the vault for this year on eBay. But I am doing more outside of eBay this year and growing like more, like, right, like I'm doing the sealed wholesaling stuff. I'm doing that like almost entirely through Instagram. I'm fulfilling the boxes for Dan. I'm meeting all these people. Like I just met this dude locally that placed like a massive order, and he just texted me while we're on the podcast and wants to double it. And so like I am doing all these things, and I'm vending locally like twice a month now too, right? So like I'm doing all these things to grow my business outside of eBay. eBay is still like, I love eBay and I want that to continue to grow, but I think it's good to have like multiple things as sort of like a backstop. Like if I was Brandon Martin personally, I would start looking at like something maybe not more, I shouldn't say guaranteed, but like I would look at eBay Live. I would look at trying to do like live rips on YouTube or things like that, just so that you're backstopped. Obviously, like TikTok had the whole thing with the government and Congress and China and blah blah blah. So like that was a huge sort of like that's probably not going to happen to Whatnot. But like I don't know. Like I mean, to me, it's like what has already happened that, or like what would happen that has already, like Whatnot already has gone through like the horrible PR, the Blake Martinez rattle making 10 million videos, like.
Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. They've been through the gauntlet. They've gone through the worst of the worst of the worst, and they've kind of come out the other side of it.
It doesn't matter, which is why you need to get your ass back on there. You need to start ripping packs, baby. You need to start getting the
W's. So fast. Let's not be
and,
so fast. Let's just say that my tone on Whatnot is probably going to change, and my feelings on it have changed as time has gone on. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go start ripping packs again. It's just I don't think it's there right now. But it's something that I definitely think about, is like Whatnot being good job for improving. I will say, like, you've done better. I don't know how much better, because I don't have the experience anymore of being on there any longer. But as far as streaming platforms go, they do provide the end user a good experience, I think, in like the ease of use, the quality of streaming that they allow. You can say what you will about the streamers themselves that they allow on there, but that's kind of the choice of who's viewing. So, I do think it's an interesting discussion to have. And let me know down below. Let us know, what do you think the best streaming platform is? Do you think Whatnot's the best? Do you think they're the absolute worst? And regardless of like all the things that they do on the back end, you still hold a grudge from the past? Maybe have you gotten screwed by Whatnot and they never made it right, so you're burned? Like, if you still are like really anti Whatnot, tell me why. Because like I just want to know, because who's the most negative in my opinion, and I felt really burned by Whatnot for a long time, so I held a lot of those feelings, and I probably took them personally a little bit. I'm even sort of feeling a little bit like time heals wounds in that department, and they have shown.
It's just like, why? Like, if it's costing you money, like why hold on to that? Like, I remember that.
Well, even if it's not costing money, because like even it's just not an element of my business anymore. It's just no point in like reevaluating like how I feel about the platform. Like, they really have shown themselves to be sort of the leaders in the area in that regard. I don't agree with all the things they've done in the past, and maybe I don't agree with some things they'll do in the future either. But like, to say that they're not one of the more premium streaming platforms just it would be a outright lie if I was being honest with myself. So
Yeah, I think people don't really like give a shit anymore either about
yeah,
it's like you can only like hate on businesses and hate on platforms for so long. Like that stuff was cool when everybody was like, anxiety to the max, pissed off, social issues going nuts during the panorama. But like now people don't give a shit about that. Like people don't care, right? Like people used to hate on businesses and flippers and all that stuff. People don't care about that now. Pokey Chloe is out here opening stores. People are happy for her. Like people like Brandon Martin stuff. His whole content is business content. I would argue that the Brandon Martin channel specifically is like 90% business and lifestyle and maybe 10% Pokemon. No one's hating on that dude being like,
every other week,
oh,
bro says he's not going to make that content anymore, though. He keeps saying he's not going to do it, which is just so. So everyone needs to
yeah,
go
but
to
it's
his
just
channel, and since we pump him all the time, tell him that Cardboard Hands keeps pumping his damn channel, and tell him not
Brandon.
to stop.
We need you, baby. We need to come call in for the live in show. We need
Please, we get
the
your
5 minute.
ass in the call-in show, Brandon. We want you on here, okay? We get in here and talk about your business. We'll have some fun. I'll tell you some strategies that your little ripping business can use to become more profitable, and it'll start with leaving Los Angeles.
Yeah, we need the 5 minute plug from the big YouTuber. But yeah, man, I don't know, and it's cool to see too, because like I was like so burnt out, like Flipper. I remember people were like, oh, Flipper, and it's like, bro, everybody that was talking shit in all these Discords and making all these YouTube videos, it's like, shut up, bro. Like all y'all got your first label printer, your first thermal printer, and like all that shit went out the window, right? Like once you realize you can make $1, like all that, like, oh, I'm a true collector, I would never sell. It's like all those people got their first label printer, and it was like all that was done for. So, yeah, man. Anyways, all right, let's move into our last little topic, I guess.
Yeah, so this is more of a joke, a little meme here, but with talking about all this stuff and all this craziness going on, but like speaking of which, are these top signals like for the hobby? Like, are we peaking right now again? Are we in for another crash? Because I've heard a lot of really, really crazy takes here, and it does feel like it's in that era again where we're gonna look back on this in like 2 years, 3 years from now, and just be like, remember, how we look back on 2021, when we were in the top, like at 2021, like November, it's like we may look back at this and be like, you remember 2024, May 2024? That was crazy, right? That was wild. Like all the Sword and Shield boxes just selling out, but it's just wild. So you think these are signals?
Like I don't well, like a lot of stuff, like last night when you were texting me, I was like, dude, GameStop buying slabs at 85%.
If that was real, but it turns out probably not to
Like
be real.
that would have been a massive tie. It's like, yo, this is all
We
feeling
would have been buying tickets, yes.
This is all feeling real toppy right now. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah.
We got people's dads buying pallets of Pokemon out here.
Yeah, I mean that is a little toppy for sure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could point to that, but I just think that there's just so much money still sloshing around out there, and I think that the hobby has been so good to so many people that and a lot of that money ends up getting reinvested back into the hobby, right? Like I'm generally fairly conservative. And I feel like even 6 months ago, I was probably on this podcast being like, yeah, I'm going to chill out a little bit. I'm going to take less risk.
You said you're going to take money off the table.
Yeah, I'm taking money. That was all cap. I mean, I fully funded my retirement, my tax advantage buckets, catch you guys later. Like I did all that. So, shouts out to Dan. But yeah, like I've been taking more risk now than ever. So maybe that's like a top signal or something to be worried about.
Even I feel less. I bought a case of product, the maximum amount I could on Target's website the other day because they dropped a product that sold out pretty quickly. It had like Evolving Skies in it and stuff, and I haven't done that in years. And like I have a distributor, so like for me to do that, I couldn't get it from the distributor, obviously, but for me to go to Target and pay retail, I haven't done that since 2020. That to me is a signal. Like the fact that I'm now keeping my eye out for certain things like that is wild to me. So that's a signal to me. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I would say is like generally like when it's a top, you have people that don't know anything about Pokemon starting to talk, and like I don't think it's quite gotten there yet. But what I did see that was super toppy, if you go to CGC's Instagram, one of the dudes from CGC is going to speak at a wealth management conference about like investing in collectibles and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, that is super toppy. Like that is crazy, but it's cool. Like it's cool, but like if you're going to speak to hedge funds, and it's like, and it was funny is it's C. If it was Nat Turner, that'd be one thing, but it's one of the guys from CGC. Like, come on, dog. Like let's keep it real out here. Like, so it's just, yeah, man. It's so funny. All the stuff that's happening. I don't think it's a like I. If I'm going full dust, I would actually maybe, at least for Scarlet and Violet, I would like say that maybe this is a, because when I look at Google Trends, I want to say like just for the Pokemon card search term, like I want to say that we kind of like bottomed and it's like slowly starting to head back up a little bit. So I would actually, if I'm going like full dust, just absolutely bull to the moon, I would actually argue that maybe Scarlet and Violet was like a low for Pokemon, and that like we actually might be working our way back up a little bit. It looks pretty stagnant. Like if I pull out like the 12-month chart on Google Trends and just type in Pokemon cards, it looks like it's like slowly been like heading down a little bit. You know, so I don't know, man. Like I just keep it rocking and rolling. I'm taking like I said, I'm taking more risk now, but I'm also like I have more outlets now than I ever have before, and I'm just trying to get it while the getting is good. You know, I'm not doing anything crazy or doing any sort of like long-term plays that I have to sit on. Like I'm deploying capital and then instantly getting a return on it as quick as possible. And to be fair, like when I say I'm taking more risk, it's more like amount of capital, not like what I'm buying. Because the shit I'm buying is like alt arts. You know, it's like Giratina, Gengar, Umbreon, like it's that kind of stuff. So it's not like I'm specking on some random like diamond and pearl hollow and like buying out the floor. Like I'm not doing anything like that. Like I'm buying, you know, like I've talked about it past few weeks, but like I bought a bunch of Charizard V alt arts. I bought like 10 or 20 of those. I sold 6 of them in a day on an Instagram story. So like capital wise, big risk, but like in the hobbies that are like not really. Like I could sell 6 of them on an Instagram story in a day. That's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like same thing with Dragonite. Like I bought a bunch of the Dragonites. Like I'm sure I'll take those to Collecticon. They'll be gone. Like if I come home from Collecticon with any alt arts, I would be very, very surprised. So to the moon,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't think it's as much of a signal right now of the top as it is sort of a meme, like we're sort of joking about it, half joking. But I do think it's a sign that a lot of things are ripping, and I think that it's a sign that if you have the extra money and confidence and you want to play in this environment, it's a fun time to play. Because like I do think there's an avenue for it getting better if the last 4 sets of Scarlet and Violet do drop something like Gold Stars. But on the same ticket on this podcast, I've displayed. Yeah, I think it could get worse too, and we could see it get a little worse, and we could start seeing it stagnate a little more. So, so who knows? Who knows? Nobody knows, but it's always fun to talk about. That's what we have the podcast for. So, you know, let us know down below what you think. You think we're in for more stagnation? You think we're at the top now? Do you think we're nearing the top but not quite there, and or we still got a lot more to go? We're on our way up, baby. It's only one way to go, and it's up. Or, you know, are you one of the bears to listen? You're like, you know, all this money in Pokemon, it's gonna crash. It needs to all go to One Piece, and I'm a One Piece investor. So tell me in the comments, what do you think?
Yeah, if Powell cuts rates, I would be so surprised. And if Powell cuts, like, oh man, yeah, it's gonna be a wild rest of the year. And if Pokemon comes out, like if they've been releasing some kind of doo-doo sets, if Pokemon comes out with like a crazy banger set, like even 50% the popularity of 151, I mean, it could get wild real quick. So, but I don't know, man. Like, I'm glad to see it. I would like to believe that this boom, less people are more knowledgeable, more educated, and less people are getting wrecked during this than in previous situations. So yeah, hopefully there's a lot of wealth creation. Also, like, I'm sure a lot of people made a lot of money on GameStop, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of young people money flowing into collectibles and video games and all sorts of stuff that young people spend money on. So when you see those sorts of, like, you know, different wealth creation things happen, it's just a crazy time to be alive, man. It's a crazy time to be alive. So hopefully things stay strong and we're still making Cardboard Hands episodes in 2026, and we're not in a Fallout level wasteland. But did you watch Fallout really quick, by the way?
Yes, and it
It's
was amazing.
good. Yeah, it was
so good.
It was really good, dude. I'm stoked for the second season. So
it can't come soon enough. I need it. It's so good. It's everything I wanted in the Fallout show. It's so good.
It's juicy. I didn't play the video games, but now I kind of want to because of the
they're
show.
So good. If you like the show but didn't, I can't imagine like what it'd be like. As someone who played the games, like I played a couple of the games and I played a lot of Fallout 4, it was so good. Like, they did such a beautiful job with that show of being like a game representation.
Yeah, Fred, the Fred Armisen cameo. I was like, of course, Fred Armisen is the kooky dude in the middle of the desert playing fiddle music that no one likes. Like, that is like spot on for a Fred Armisen cameo. So if you're out there and you haven't seen Fallout yet, and you see everybody hyping it up, and you're like, I'm gonna be a cool guy. I don't want to be like these mainstream people. You're sleeping. Go watch it. Don't be a hipster. Go watch Fallout. You'll like it. I promise.
It's good. It's really good. Yeah.
But yeah, last thing before we get out of here, remember, next week, live Cardboard Hands call-in edition. If you have questions, if you want to hop on and talk to us and hang out, have to turn your camera on. Please don't be sussy. That's all we ask, right? Just be well behaved, be appropriate, but we're down to have some conversations. So come join us for that. So yeah. Don't I think Josh and I think Northwoods have unfortunately been dealt a bad hand a couple times with inappropriate.
Did it happen to Northwoods too?
I think it did. I think someone told me it did. So it's so weird to me. Like, I don't even understand. Like what do you get out of that? Like, are you 12 years old? Like, do you think it's funny? I don't. Yeah, man. Like, if you're just gonna hop on a live stream and show like wieners or something, it's like, come on, man. Like, get out of here. Like,
there do be 12-year-olds who like to troll. So, you know.
Yeah, no 12-year-olds are allowed. We have an age limit.
Limit. Yeah, no 12-year-olds allowed in the live. Definitely.
Yeah, we have a maturity.
18 or older only.
Yeah, we have a maturity level cap for
not for the content level, but for
no, absolutely not. Yeah, the maturity level degrades over time. Yes. The market's going up, our maturity is going down. So, you know,
it could be both. Yeah,
explain that to me. But anyways, do you have any last words for the folks before we get out of here?
No, go find us at the Front Row Card Show this weekend. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about going to a card show in Southern California, I'll be right up front. Go see us. I'll have some really cool stuff. I have a ton of inventory, really, really good stuff. So I'd love to see you. So come on down and we'll see you then. And if not, we'll see you in the next one, on the next podcast. It'll be live on our other channel, on Retrospect's channel here. So make sure you follow there. And until then, we'll catch you guys next time.